Chapter 799. Cowhide couldn't wrap up the awesome, and paper couldn't wrap up Fong Huahua. The fact that Yi Ro had become a heavenly Tao master was known by others. Even after the death of Tao addict Song Transplanting, both parties wanted to hide it. It was originally a fierce battle in the forest, and not many people knew about it. Fong Yen and Yi Ro wanted to preserve their strength, to prevent the Yi family from setting up more obstacles between them. So after Yi Ro broke through the obstacle and became a heavenly Tao master, they still didn't persuade the Yi family. They only said that Yi Ro failed to break through and suffered a huge backlash from the heavenly Tao and needed to rest. Bailey Lu was Fong Yan's partner. He naturally wouldn't tell others what Fong Yan didn't want to say. Jiang Junling wouldn't say it to others. It was a great shame to be expelled by the family. His master, who he relied on as a shield, was also killed by Yi Ro. Yes, although his master was shot to death by Fong Yan, he still subconsciously thought that his master was killed by Yi Ro. This was because Fong Yan was a shameless B****starred. With his mediocre martial arts, how could he possibly lay a finger on his master? The most unacceptable thing was that Song Transplanting was killed by Fong Yan with a gun. People often said that the person who raised the eagle was pecked blind by the eagle. However, this was already a great honor in the eyes of Jiang Junling. If he was like his master, who pursued martial arts all his life and pursued the peak power in the world, but was killed by a rogue with a gun, wouldn't it be a joke? The death of Tao addict Song Transplanting seedlings was a fatal blow to the side of General Ling. They didn't want such a secret to spread. The poor Tao addict Song Transplanting was a scum of a generation. After his death, no one knew about it. Because he was too excited, Yi Daoling almost stood up from his chair. He looked at Yi Ro in surprise and said, "Why didn't you say such a big thing earlier?" "That's right. Why didn't you say such an important thing?" Yi Daowen was shocked at first, and now he was ecstatic. His daughter had become a heavenly Tao realm expert, so he had become a heavenly Tao realm expert. Her father, he felt like he was much more powerful than a heavenly Tao realm expert. The last time you failed to climb the heavenly axiom, everyone's hearts were hanging in suspense for you. Recently, no one in the family has talked about that matter, for fear of touching your sore spot. Ting, this kind of thing should not be hidden. This is the honor of our Yi family, and also the honor of our Swallow Dock. Apart from Mo Qingdi from decades ago, another heavenly Tao realm expert has appeared in our Swallow Dock. Furthermore, it's a heavenly Tao realm expert who's even younger than Mo Qingdi from back then. How can we keep it a secret? I don't want to say it. Yi Ro looked at everyone's probing eyes expressionlessly. She didn't intend to explain seriously. Why don't you want to talk about it? This is... Yi Daowen still wanted to say something, but the great ancestor could no longer listen. He angrily interrupted his reprimand and said, "Wenwen said that she doesn't want to say it. Why are you forcing her? She was a heavenly Tao realm expert, so it was a joyous matter. Just because she's not a heavenly Tao realm expert, does that mean she's not your daughter?" "Great ancestor, that's not what I meant. I just felt that this matter should be made known so that everyone can have some fun." Yi Daowen hurriedly apologized and said, "You also know that Wenwen failed to climb the heavenly axiom the last time. Everyone was burdened with immense pressure because of her. The Yi family was also mocked by others, saying that we don't know the immensity of the world. Why bother with the gossip of others? Does our Yi family need others to point fingers at us when we do things?" The great ancestor's tone turned more impatient as he said, "The next time someone dares to do such a thing, just go up and smack him in the face. He doesn't know how to live up to expectations and doesn't properly practice his martial art. Instead, he makes sarcastic remarks about the hard work of others. Such people won't amount to much their entire lives." "Yes," Yi Daowen replied respectfully. Yi Daoxian was from the military, and he had the deepest and most unyielding features among the three brothers. He sat there like a handsome statue, and in terms of bearing and bearing, he was much better than his son. Yi Daoxian looked at Yi Wen with bright eyes and asked, "You said that Fang Yen helped you withstand the backlash of the heavenly axiom? What's going on?" Yi Wen didn't respond. She had already recounted what had happened, so she didn't wish to repeat it again. Yi Daoling understood Yi Wen's character, so he hurriedly explained, when one encountered a heavenly tribulation when she was climbing the heavenly axiom. That stage was originally impossible to cross. Touching the power of the heavenly axiom, if one isn't able to kick down the door and cross it, one would be punished by the power of the heavenly axiom. When Wen's situation was very dangerous back then, and that punk, Fang Yen, ran over noisily to find Wen. Elder brother and I tried our best to stop him, and even our Yi family's door was smashed by that punk. We were originally worried that he would disturb Wen's ascension, but who knew that by a freak combination of factors, he saved Wen's life. At the most dangerous moment, Fang Yen used his heart of Taiji to withstand the backlash of the heavenly axiom. It's said that even now, that punk's heart of Taiji can't be used normally. For this, the Yi family's patriarch often came to our house to have a chat with our patriarch, saying that their Fang family risked their lives for our Yi family, so our Yi family can't do such heartless things. Yi Daoxian nodded, but his gaze was still on Yi Wen's face. He asked, "Can the backlash of the heavenly axiom be endured by someone else?" "Yes." Yi Wen nodded. He knew that this uncle was discussing this problem with him from a scholarly point of view. After all, he was currently improving and streamlining the Yi family style, and then promoting it to Hua Xia's special forces. What's the trick? The person who bears the backlash knows how to use the heart of Taiji. Yi Wen answered. Yi Daoxian found it difficult to continue, so the topic came to an end. Yi Daoling looked at Yi Wen in delight and said, "Wen has become a heavenly Dao realm expert. Our Yi family also has a heavenly Dao realm expert. This matter needs to be celebrated. Patriarch, don't you think so?" "Yes, it needs to be celebrated." Yi Daoling echoed his elder brother's actions. This is a joyous occasion. Not stealing or robbing, but relying on one's own hard work and talent to climb the heavenly axiom at such a young age. The entire Swallow Fort should celebrate this matter for 3 days. Elder brother, communicate with Mr. about this matter. I believe Mr. will be happy to see the rise of an outstanding young man. That's right. Back then, when Mo Qingdi succeeded in climbing the heavenly axiom, Mr. had the entire village celebrate for 3 days. Our Wen can't lose to Mo Qingdi's procession back then, right? A white-haired old man beside the patriarch said. This matter will quickly spread to Beijing, and then to the entire country. The patriarch looked worriedly at Yi Wen and asked, "Wen, what do you think?" Yi Wen understood the patriarch's concern as she looked at him with a gentle voice and said, "Let them like it." "All right." Only then did the patriarch feel relieved. Seeing the person in question, Yi Wen agree to the matter. Everyone in the room laughed. Everyone felt joyous. Yi Daoxian looked at Yi Wen and said, "Has Fang Yen returned?" "I heard that he has returned." Yi Xiaojun, who was beside Yi Fengxing, said, "Someone saw him pushing Grandpa for a stroll by Stone River." "Yes." Yi Daoxian frowned and said, "I heard that Fang Yen and the general family are fighting intensely. To the death." Yi Daoling gave an appropriate evaluation. He said, "The last time Mr. brought Fang Yen to visit the general family, it was to denounce Fang Yen, and also to put an end to this matter on Fang Yan's behalf. However, the general family's old patriarch would rather banish the offending grandson from the family than let the matter rest. This time, the general family attacked in anger, naturally with the intention of not stopping until one side is dead." Yi Daoxian shook his head lightly and said, "The general family, they have a lot of business. Although Fang Yen has some talent, he has just started out and will most likely die in this battle. I don't think he will win." After a pause, Yi Daoxian looked at Yi Wen and said, 1. I know that Fang Yan has helped you before, and I've heard some things between the two of you. However, you cannot get involved in this matter. If possible, you must keep your distance from Fang Yan. This matter is no longer just a fight between Fang Yan and a junior of the General Family, but a fight against the entire General Family Corporation. We need to focus on our own development. There is no need to fight against that group of people. Yi Daowen deeply agreed and said, 1. Your uncle is right. Fang Yan is a good child and a very talented martial artist, but the two of you are not suited for each other. Since it is fated that you will not be able to be together in the future, then it is better to sever this relationship as soon as possible. In the future, Daddy will find you someone more suitable. Is that all right? Yi Daoling smiled without a word, but his eyes were paying attention to the changes in Yi Wenwen's expression. Yi Wenwen's expression did not change at all. She looked at her father before looking at Yi Daoxian and said, there is no such thing as compatibility. If I like him, then he is suitable. If I don't like him, then he is not suitable. You child, Yi Daowen was somewhat angry. To have his own words rebutted by his daughter in front of so many people, it did not look good on him either. I will marry Fang Yan. I want to marry him. Yi Wenwen's voice was gentle and firm, but her tone had an unquestionable power. No. That's impossible, Yi Wenwen. The voices came from different members of the Yi family, as though every member of the Yi family had a reason to strongly oppose this matter. Yi Fengxing's heart was about to leap to his throat, as though he could spit it out with a burp. I will not allow this to happen, Yi Daowen said with an overbearing attitude. You are so silly, Yi Wenwen said as she looked at her father. In the past, you could not stop me. Now that I am a Heavenly Dao Realm expert, how can you stop me? Chapter 800. You're such a fool. These 3 words were like a powerful atomic bomb being dropped on the dining hall of the Yi family. The noisy scene suddenly quietened down, and the lively discussion instantly stopped. Everyone looked at Yi Ro with astonishment, looking at the girl who said, "You're such a fool," to her father. The Yi family was a traditional family. Like other families in Swallow Dock, they all implemented the patriarchal system. The juniors had to be respectful when speaking to the elders. Even if the elders said something wrong, they couldn't refute them directly. What was Yi Ro doing? No one said a word. They even tried to suppress their breathing. Everyone stared at Yi Ro, at Yi Daowen, who had been countered by Yi Ro. Yi Daowen was the patriarch of the Yi family. He represented the dignity and face of the Yi family. He represented the Yi family's attitude towards a certain person or thing. Now, what kind of punishment was he going to give to Yi Ro, who had disobeyed him? Yi Daowen's expression was extremely gloomy. Because of his anger, the veins on his fists bulged. His eyes were fixed on Yi Ro. He stared at the daughter he had always treated as a treasure. Just now, what did she say to him? Yi Daowen wasn't a man who hadn't experienced many trials and tribulations, and because of his long years of practicing martial arts, his temperament and self-restraint could be considered first class. However, being slapped in the face by his own daughter in front of so many people, he still had a hard time accepting it. How did that sentence come about? Only the person you love can hurt you the most. That was exactly what he was feeling at this moment. Yi Ro. Yi Daowen tried hard to calm the anger in his heart. He tried his best to make his voice dignified and gentle. What did you mean by those words just now? I'm saying that you can't stop me. Yi Ro's expression didn't change at all. On the contrary, one could see her calmness and sincerity in her eyes. She wasn't hypocritical, and she hated hypocrisy. She thought of this and said it directly. In the past, you couldn't stop me. Even if I wasn't a Heavenly Dao Realm expert back then, when I wanted to marry Fang Yan, I would definitely marry Fang Yan. As long as he was willing to marry me. Now, I'm a Heavenly Dao Realm expert. I have greater power and autonomy. If I want to marry Fang Yan, I will marry Fang Yan. This was following his own temperament and obeying the rules of the heavenly Tao. Even the heavens won't stop me, let alone you. I'm your father, and you don't consider my attitude at all? I've thought about it and I've been troubled by it. It's also because I've considered your attitude and the Yi family's attitude that I've decided to hide the fact that I've succeeded in climbing the heavenly axiom. Gentle, don't get too excited. Yi Daoxian wanted to smooth things over between the father and daughter. He was worried that their relationship would become even more strained, and it would be difficult to clean up when the time came. Your father is doing this for your own good. He hopes that you can consider the position and attitude of the Yi family. It's for my own good, Yi Ro said. I also hope that he can consider my feelings and my future. He's my father. Isn't that what he's supposed to do? What kind of father would let his daughter sacrifice for the family without caring about his daughter's feelings? It's not that your father doesn't consider you, but the Yi family's position and your choice are contradictory. So I have to compromise and turn a blind eye to everything that the man I like has encountered? The corners of Yi Ro's mouth curled up as she revealed a mocking smile. If that's the case, what's the point of me climbing the heavenly axiom? I can't even abide by the human path, and I still want to borrow the power of the heavenly axiom. Isn't that going against the heavens? Yi Daoling understood Yi Ruer's character. He knew that there was no way to discuss this matter today. He smiled and said, Okay. Ruer has her own considerations. The Yi family also has their own position. We need to discuss this matter in the long run. There is no need to rush it now. Regardless, today is a joyous day for our Yi family. Ro has succeeded in climbing the heavenly axiom, and she's the youngest heavenly axiom expert in Swallow Dock and even the entire Huaxia. Our Yi family has a reason to celebrate. Yi Daoling looked at the patriarch and said, Patriarch, shall we have dinner? The patriarch didn't wish to see the family's internal strife either, so he nodded and said, Let's have dinner. All sorts of exotic delicacies surged onto the dining table like flowing water. Jar after jar of shadaozi were broken, emitting a rich fragrance of alcohol. The atmosphere in the hall turned lively once again, but everyone felt that the atmosphere was a little off. Qin Chang sat in the middle of the Qin family's juniors. He raised the teacup in front of him and said with a smile, Brothers, have you ever gone back and told your parents that the Qin family can't save Fang Yan this time? Who is Fang Yan? He has nothing to do with our Qin family, so why would our Qin family risk our lives for an insignificant person? Can we not say it? But it's useless even if we say it. That woman rejected the Jiang family's settlement agreement. She's clearly helping that punk. You can't say that the punk has nothing to do with our Qin family. He's the man Qin Etienne likes. Qin Etienne usually puts on a cold face in front of us. She doesn't think anything of us brothers, but she's dead set on a wild man outside. She clearly knows that he already has a girlfriend, yet she's willing to be his mistress. Doesn't she have any shame? Qin Chang waited for everyone to vent for a while before he rubbed the rim of his teacup and analyzed the situation. This is a huge matter. It's a matter of life and death for our Qin family. I've asked around at the Jiang family's side. They are bent on killing Fang Yan this time. And I heard that it was personally decided by the Jiang family's patriarch, and it was handed over to the Jiang family, who has been in the limelight recently. Tell me, for our Qin family to wrestle with them at this moment, if we don't control it well, the two families will end up in a life-and-death situation. Why? For benefits? But even if we get rid of the Jiang family, how much benefits can we get? Who knows, at that time, our Qin family's strength will be greatly damaged, and the Huang family, Li family, and Chen family will take advantage of us. We and the Jiang family usually mind our own business. It's not that we don't have small fights, but that's only courtesy demands reciprocity. This time, the seriousness of the matter is extraordinary. If the Qin family really goes to war with the Jiang family, those two women will be the sinners of the Qin family. But at that time, will it be too late for us to complain? We can only stop it before it happens. Qin Chang had 10,000 reasons to hate Fang Yan. Of course, he hated Li Xinyan and Qin Etian, who stood behind Fang Yan, even more. The conflict with Jun Xiepu last time was actually a flashpoint of his dissatisfaction with the two women who controlled the Qin family's power. Whether it was Li Xinyan or the new generation of Qin Etian, they were both rare business prodigies that only appeared once in 100 years. Because of this, some people even joked that because the Qin family's women took advantage of the Qin family's feng shui, the men of the Qin family were all idiots. In all honesty, was Qin Chang an idiot? Take a closer look. How could he be an idiot? This time, Li Xinyan refused the gift from the Jiang family, causing a huge split within the Qin family. Qin Chang and the other like-minded people saw the opportunity and wanted to make a big move. It would be best if they could push down Li Xinyan and Qin Etian. Qin Chang, you have the most ideas among us. Tell us what to do, we'll all follow you. Qin Yi shouted. That's right. We don't have much strength. We can't even say a few words before the elders in the family scolded us. I think we should stick together. Qin Guan echoed. In any case, I don't want to go to war with the Jiang family, and I don't want to go to war with the Jiang family for an outsider. Qin Chang waved his hand. It's not that there's no way. But as Qin Guan said, we don't have the strength to fight alone. As you all know, the Qin family is divided into two factions. One is for peace, and they agree to the Jiang family's agreement in exchange for all of Chao Yan's benefits. The other faction is for war. Although they didn't explicitly say that they want to go to war with the Jiang family, the Qin family rejected the Jiang family's offer. Isn't it clear that they want to go to war? Under the control and influence of those two women, my father is currently contacting the uncles in the family, as well as some of the direct descendants of the family who hold important positions in various businesses. He's prepared to force the Jiang family to abdicate. Force that woman to abdicate. As long as she abdicates, the conflict between the Qin family and the Jiang family will be easily resolved. I support you. Qin Guan nodded. I'll also convince my father and grandfather to support you. I support you as well. Let the woman go back to nursing her child. If Qin Etian really likes Fang Yan, he can marry into the Fang family. It's time for the men of the Qin family to stand up and take responsibility. The vision of women is still too shallow. Qin Chang smiled vaguely as he looked at his companions in the family who had been incited by him. Fang Yan, you're just an insignificant target. Our true targets are those two women. Their existence is too dazzling, and we're too embarrassed. As a man of a family like the Qin family, you should be able to understand our situation, right? But who told them to like you? Many times, liking someone is a mistake. Chapter 801. Junling Clubhouse. Li Junling accompanied a few familiar guests for a drink before she gracefully stood up and said with a smile, "You guys have a good drink. I'm going backstage to prepare. I'll be playing a song on stage later." What else does Junling need to prepare? Your piano skills are so high. If we talk about a single instrument, even that music addict who's been playing it to perfection isn't as good as you, right? Chen Shuang said with a smile. Go do what you need to do. We'll take care of ourselves. I'll treat your place like my own home. If music addicts fans hear this, they won't let me off easily. Li Junling said with a smile. She patted her best friend Chen Shuang's hand and said, "See you in a bit." See you in a bit. Li Junling warmly greeted every friend she met and nodded to those who were a bit further away. Elegant and graceful, yet dignified. The style of the piano goddess is indeed extraordinary. It's a pity that she's going to marry the one from the Qin family. He's really not much. It's just a pile of sh*t. As long as it comes from the Qin family, it's more nutritious than the sh*t outside, Some people in the clubhouse praised Li Junling's beauty and extraordinary temperament, but even more people mocked and ridiculed the young master of the Qin family who was going to marry Li Junling. Saying the grapes are sour when you can't eat them was the AQ spirit of self-consolation. Li Junling didn't know what others were saying and didn't care. After she told the bodyguard at the door, she pushed open the wooden door of her private resting room. Near the window of the room stood a stalwart man in a white shirt. His facial expression couldn't be seen clearly, but just the side profile was enough to make people feel that he was extraordinarily handsome. Broad shoulders, thin waist, slender legs. His body proportion was comparable to that of a top male model. Li Junling's heart was filled with sweetness. She walked forward and hugged the man's waist from behind. She pressed her face against the man's strong back and said, "You've been so busy recently, how do you have time to come here?" "I missed you, so I came to see you," the man said in a teasing voice. Li Junling hugged the man even tighter and said, "I've always wanted to contact you, but when I found out that you went to Huacheng and heard that you were doing something so important, I resisted the urge. Besides, with our relationship, I'm not in a position to take care of you and care about you. Many times I want to do something for you, but I don't know where to start." The man was silent for a moment and said, "The wedding is getting closer, right?" "They said it was before the new year," Li Junling said in a low voice. "There are only a few good days before the new year. No matter which one he chose, it would only take him a few days. In the past, he always felt that time passed too slowly, and every day felt extremely long. But now I realize that time has passed too quickly. Before I could properly appreciate the day, it had already slipped away with a whoosh. I can't even hold it back." The man fell silent again. After a long time, he seemed to have made some kind of decision and said, "How about I tell Grandpa?" Li Junling smiled in a low voice and said, "This is not your style. Do you really dare to tell your grandpa about this?" "It's indeed not my style," the man squinted his eyes and smiled. "But, for the woman I like, I should always be hot-blooded for once. What's the saying again? Who doesn't have hot-blooded youth? I've never been young, and I haven't done too many hot-blooded things. But for you, I'm willing to take a risk." Li Junling was moved to tears, hugging the man's body tightly and said, "I know you have this kind of intention, and I'm already very satisfied. Our family and the Qin family are too closely tied together. Qin Chong and I have already been engaged for a long time, and now we're at the last step. If you stand out at this time, how would they see you? How would your Jiang family see you?" "It's a bit difficult," the man's face was full of sorrow. "If I tell Grandpa about this, he'll definitely scold me for not being able to control my crotch, for not being able to take on such a heavy responsibility. The Qin family will also think that this is a great humiliation. Originally, they would have watched the dispute between our Jiang family and Fang Yen with cold eyes. After this, I'm afraid they have no choice but to come out and help Fang Yen fight against our Jiang family." I know everything," Li Junling nodded and said. "That's why I don't want to make things difficult for you. You're a very capable man, and it wasn't easy for you to get to this point. I don't want you to waste all your efforts because of me. I know very well how much effort you've put in to get to this point. But I still have to give you an explanation." The man sighed softly and said, "How many years have we known each other?" 7 years. Li Junling didn't hesitate to say the correct date. 7 years ago we met at a Xiangshan charity banquet. Although we didn't say a word to each other at the banquet, when we left, we walked out one after another. We took a walk in Xiangshan, from halfway up the mountain all the way to Yanjing City. I didn't ask you where you came from, and you didn't ask me who I was. Then, we walked until now." There was a gentle smile on the man's lips. He reached out to hold the back of Li Junling's hand and said, "Yes. 7 years, from that night until now, it's been 7 years. So, it's because of this that I can't let you go so easily. You're my woman, in the past and in the future. I won't allow other men to touch you, and I won't allow you to fall into the arms of other men. I can't accept it. But, no buts. There was a cold smile on the man's lips. He said, Time, I just need a little time. After I take down Fang Yen and consolidate my position in the Jiang family, I'll bring up this matter to the old man. I want to marry you, everything will take its course. If the Qin family isn't afraid of both sides suffering, I won't hesitate to fight with them. Jun Xing. The man suddenly turned around and hugged Li Junling's thin body in his arms. Before Li Junling could say anything, her mouth was already covered by the man's. Soon, the room was filled with pleasurable yet extremely repressed moans. Outside the room, the bodyguard standing at the door was pale, and sweat appeared on his forehead. He looked at a corner in horror, as if there was an ugly monster hiding there. Fang Yen finally saw Yi Rou. At that time, Fang Yen was chatting with his grandfather in the yard and heard the voices of his mother and Yi Rou talking in the front yard. The old man, Fang Huwei, looked at Fang Yen meaningfully and said, Rou is a filial child. She will come to see your mother and me. Although she doesn't talk much, it's easy to feel her sincerity. She even brought gifts many times. The fire fox blanket I'm wearing is a gift from her. She said that the weather is getting colder and colder, and she needs a blanket to avoid getting cold. I heard that Yi Daoling brought it back from Yanjing and gave it to his ancestor, but she sent it to me. Have you talked to Rou about that? Not yet. Fang Yen shook his head. You have to find a way to solve this shameful thing yourself. I only have one request, you can't deceive Rou, Fang Huwei said seriously. I know. Fang Yen nodded heavily and said, I will find a chance to talk to her. If you can deceive her for a lifetime, you don't have to say anything. Fang Huwei blinked and added. Anyway, I want a grandson or a granddaughter. The Fang family is short of people. Not so fast. It's as easy for other people's children to give birth like a hen laying eggs. Yi Fengxing won the girl of the Bailey family without a word, and the wedding will be held on New Year's Day. He said that he already has a child. Why is it so difficult for you? Are you? Fang Huwei's eyes swept over Fang Yan's body and asked, What's the problem? While the grandfather and grandson were talking, Yi Rou had already walked over from the front yard. She glanced at Fang Yan, then took the initiative to greet Fang Huwei. She handed over the basket of pastries in her hand and said, I just made these today. I know you like them, so I packed a basket for you. Fang Huwei laughed with the basket in his arms and said, I understand what Rou means. You're sending delicious food to shut Grandpa's mouth. Okay, I won't say anything. I'm going to my room to eat pastries. You two young people can go out and have a walk. Yi Rou didn't look shy. She looked at Fang Yen and said, Let's go out for a walk. Fang Yen glanced at his grandfather and said, Grandpa, I'm going out with Rou. I'll talk to you later when I come back. Go. Fang Huwei chewed the delicious pastries and said, Can I say no? Can't you see that my mouth has been blocked by the little girl? Beside the stone river, Fang Yen and Yi Rou walked side by side on the bank. Women carrying baskets of vegetables and old men carrying hoes came back from the field. They greeted them and laughed kindly when they saw them. The news that Fang Yen and Yi Rou were in love had long been spread in Swallow Dock. I was going to see you early tomorrow morning, Fang Yen said with a smile. I know. Yi Rou nodded. But I can't wait. In the twilight, the green mountains in the distance looked like a long, ink-stained dragon. There was no bright moon in the sky, nor a star. However, Fang Yen clearly felt that his eyes were shining. The girl standing in front of him was the warmest sun in his heart. Chapter 802. But I can't wait. Yi Rou said it naturally and relaxedly. However, it was also this natural and relaxed attitude that revealed her true nature. One day seemed like 3 years. There were still several hours until tomorrow morning, but for some people, these hours were longer than 1 day, 1 month, or even 1 year. Yi Ro didn't want to wait. The man she liked lived next door. She could see him in a few steps. Why should she wait until tomorrow morning? Who would care about the neighbor's slander or the man's family's contempt? As for being reserved, she wouldn't care about it. Why did the word reserved have to be imposed on women? Why didn't men know about being reserved? Fang Yen looked at Yi Ro's profile and said softly, I shouldn't wait until tomorrow morning. I should ask you out tonight and hold you in my arms. Yi Ro turned to look at Fang Yen and said, Don't. Someone is watching. You don't care about it anyway. Fang Yen held Yi Ro in his arms and let her head lean on his shoulder. He said, I can't wait to do this. I don't want to wait for a second. Ro, I didn't expect you to be so cute when you say love words. Yi Ro raised her eyebrows and asked, Did I say love words? You did. You said, but I can't wait. These words were words of love. The sweetest love words in the world. Fang Yen said with absolute certainty. Yi Ro nodded and said, So this is love words. Your love words are also very nice. Fang Yen held back his laughter and asked, Which love words are nicer? You said, I can't wait to do this. I don't want to wait for a second. Yi Ro said softly. I'm very happy to hear that. Hearing you say that you're happy to hear this, I'm also very happy. Yi Ro opened her mouth and gave up helplessly. She said, I don't know what to say. Then don't say anything. Hold me tight. Yi Ro gave Fang Yen a hug, but when she saw someone walking over, she pushed him away immediately. Fang Yen felt wronged and said, Do you know that in a normal relationship, if a girl does this kind of action, it will hurt a man's self-esteem? Yi Ro nodded and said, I know. But I think you read different. You're right, I'm different from them. Fang Yen grinned and said, They are all little kids. How can they be compared with a mature man like me? We are more broad-minded and can tolerate more things that young people can't bear. You are thick-skinned, so you can take more blows. You shouldn't feel hurt. The corners of Yi Ro's mouth curled up with a pleasant smile. She was willing to attack Fang Yen like this and tell his friends some jokes about Fang Yan's shamelessness. Fang Yen definitely didn't know that when they were young, she was actually very envious of Fang Yan's friends wherever he went. Whether it was when he bullied her or did other bad things, there would always be a group of friends around his age who would cheer for him. Of course, there were also boos. No matter what, they all liked him very much. Even her cousin, Yi Fengxing, was one of them. At that time, she was always alone. You misunderstand me, Fang Yen said with a bitter smile. Yi Ro stopped under an old willow tree by the river. She looked at the dark and deep river with a trace of silver floating on it and asked, Fang Yen, how are you? I'm very good, Fang Yen said with a smile. What about the Jiang family? I hope they're not so good. I knew you're this kind of person. Yi Ro's eyes brightened and her voice became light. No matter how strong your opponents are, you won't be easily defeated by them. In the past, the Qianye military department was an opponent that we had to look up to. But in the end, they still lost to you. Although I know you're sincerely praising me, I still can't help but want to correct a mistake. No matter how strong my opponents are, I won't be defeated by them. You used the word easily. Using the word easily doesn't sound right. It sounds like they can defeat me if they put in a bit more effort. That's impossible. But it's still very difficult, right? Yi Ro asked. It's very difficult. The smile on Fang Yan's face gradually disappeared. He said with a heavy voice, It's not easy to be an opponent like the Jiang family. If you're not careful, you'll lose everything. That won't happen, Yi Ro said. What won't happen? Even if you lose, you won't lose everything. A faint blush finally appeared on Yi Ro's cheeks. She turned her eyes to the surface of Shihizi and said softly, You still have me. Fang Yen beamed and said, Ro, why are you so cute tonight? I feel like I'm not afraid of you anymore. Yi Ro stared at Fang Yen and asked, Were you afraid of me before? I wasn't afraid. I just respected you a little. I couldn't help but want to respect you. But I was still afraid. Yi Ro said. I really wasn't afraid. If I was afraid of you, why would I want to marry you? Am I right? Fang Yen, I want to talk to you about something. Ro, I also want to talk to you about something. Fang Yen looked at Yi Ro and said with a serious face. Yi Ro pondered for a moment and looked at Fang Yen thoughtfully. She nodded and said, Okay. What do you want to say? You know about the existence of Lu Chaoga, right? Yes. You two used to live together in Rosefinch. When Chiba challenged you in the Ministry of War, I saw her in the small courtyard where you lived. Yi Ro had a very good memory. She certainly wouldn't forget that she had seen Lu Chaoga before. Pausing for a moment, he added, a very capable and charming woman. When she saw me, there was wariness and hostility in her eyes. But she didn't know about it. Between me and her, Fang Yen dodged her eyes and didn't dare to look into Yi Ro's eyes. Before seeing Yi Ro, he felt that he had made enough mental preparation. He felt that it was his fault and he had to bear the responsibility. He wanted to confess to Yi Ro. He wanted to beg for Yi Ro's forgiveness or accept Yi Ro's unforgiveness. In any case, he had to let Yi Ro know. Otherwise, if the truth was exposed, it would hurt Yi Ro and Lu Chaoga more. Of course, the current situation itself was a kind of injury. Have you slept together? Yi Ro asked aloud. Can you imagine how Fang Yen felt at this moment? He just wanted to drink some water, but someone fired a powerful water gun and sprayed it on his face. Fang Yen stared at Yi Ro and asked in surprise, How do you know? Grandpa told me. Yi Ro said expressionlessly. I've only heard of people who set up their fathers. How could there be someone who set up their grandson? Fang Yen felt that he was killed by the old man in his family. Didn't we agree that, let me solve this matter by myself? Didn't we agree that, I must confess by myself and no one can help me? Didn't we agree that I shouldn't hide it or hide it for the rest of my life? Grandpa, what the hell are you playing at? Don't you know that you will kill me by setting me up like this? Don't you understand that love is sometimes very fragile? Of course, Grandpa didn't understand. At that time, they must have been arranged by their parent. They didn't even know what their grandmother looked like before they entered the bridal chamber. The muscles on Fang Yan's face twitched. After swallowing a few mouthfuls of saliva, he looked at Yi Ro cautiously and asked, Grandpa, what did he say to you? Nothing much. Yi Ro's expression didn't show any sadness or joy. She said lightly, He just asked me if I like Lu Chaoga. Grandpa asked me if I like Lu Chaoga. I'm not familiar with Lu Chaoga. Why would he ask me this question? Of course, it's because you are familiar with her. Fang Yen, I just don't want to think about it, but I'm not stupid. Grandpa has already hinted so clearly, how can I not know what he means? I think the relationship between you two must be extraordinary, otherwise you and Grandpa wouldn't be in such a difficult position. Yi Ro's expression became serious. She looked at Fang Yen with murderous eyes. Yes, it was indeed murderous. Yi Ro, who had entered the heavenly Tao realm, gave people a feeling of gentleness like water. Even the coldness from before had melted a lot. She looked like an ordinary woman. However, at this moment, Yi Ro was filled with danger. It made people feel the biting cold aggression that could kill with a touch. Yi Ro looked at Fang Yen and asked in a deep voice, Fang Yen, aren't you afraid that I'll be angry? Plop. Fang Yan's body retreated continuously, and his back leaned against the hard stone wall of someone's house. He looked at Yi Ro with a sad face and said, I'm ready. You can do whatever you want. Of course, I know this still won't solve any problem. So, before you make any decision, can you listen to me first? I don't like to listen to nonsense. Yi Ro's tone was cold. I know. Fang Yen said in a deep voice. I love you. Chapter 803. I love you. For true lovers, these 3 words were worth a lot of gold. To a casual one-night stand couple, These 3 words were not much different from good morning or I want to take a dump. However, as for how to distinguish whether it was nonsense or not, that would depend on the benevolent and the wise. At that time, the sword was only 0.01 centimeters away from my throat. But after the time for a quarter of an incense stick, the owner of the sword would fall in love with me completely because I decided to tell a lie. Although I have told countless lies in my life, I think this one is the most perfect. Oh, sorry, I got the wrong line. There was no sword, only the strong killing intent emanating from Yi Ro's body. Yi Ro stared at Fang Yen coldly, as if she was staring at a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Should she kill him first and castrate him, or castrate him first and then kill him? This was a very illogical question, but how could a woman be logical? I love you, Fang Yen looked at Yi Ro and said. He thought his way of solving the problem was perfect, just like the way Joker answered Xixia Fairy in Journey to the West. A senior gambler once said that when a woman was angry, as long as she said the words, "I love you" to her, she would instantly lose her mind or IQ. Once a woman lost the ability to think, she could only be led by a man to move forward. However, Yi Ro was obviously not that kind of woman. Yi Ro looked at Fang Yan's face and said, "A move you often use? Do you think it will work on me?" "I know, you are the most difficult person in this matter," Fang Yan said with a red face. It was not only because of embarrassment, but also because of the timidity and guilt of facing Yi Ro. Things have happened, and the result has been determined. But such a fact is pushed in front of you, and you have to choose whether to accept or reject it. This is a great injustice to you. I'm not a victim. From a man's standpoint, I'm the one who benefits the most. I should be responsible for everything I've done. I was very nervous at the time, but I had to pretend to be calm in front of the other woman because it wasn't her fault. I said that I would bear all the sins and consequences. I want to say the same to you. If you are angry, you vent. If you hate, you fight. But you can't kill me yet, because I still have important things to do. I have to live, at least for a while. I have to protect my grandfather and my mother. I have to make sure that they are safe and that no harm will befall them. At that time, I will be at your disposal. If you really did that, maybe I would feel better in my heart. You mean I can't do anything to you now? Not really. Why don't you scold me now? Fang Yan asked cautiously. Or you can beat me up, Fang Yan, I'm very angry. Yi Ro stared at Fang Yan and said. I know, Fang Yan said in a low voice. He slightly lowered his head, showing that he was admitting his guilt. You're sorry. Yi Ro's tone became even colder. Yes, I'm sorry. You have to compensate. Okay, I'll compensate. What? You have to marry me, Yi Ro said. Okay, I'll marry you. Fang Yan suddenly raised his head and looked at Yi Ro in surprise, asking, What did you just say? You have to marry me, Yi Ro said. You have to be responsible for me. I know, but Fang Yan's head felt like it had been rained on for a whole night. He was in a daze and couldn't find the right direction. Just a moment ago, they were about to fight and kill each other. How did it turn into a romantic drama in the blink of an eye? The scene changed so fast that Fang Huohua couldn't react. I'm your girlfriend, Yi Ro said. Yes, you always have been. I'm also your boyfriend. Our family knows about us. Everyone in Swallow Dock knows about us. Many people in Yanjing also know about us. Mrs. Li and Uncle Zhang in the village just saw us hugging. Yes, they saw. Fang Yan nodded his head like a chick pecking rice. What does this woman want to say? Why did it feel like she was different from before? If I encountered such a thing in the past, I would directly rush up and beat her up. She would beat me up happily, and I would suffer happily. It was straightforward and efficient, without any sloppiness, nor would it make people feel uneasy and uneasy. What does she want to play? If you don't marry me, my reputation will be ruined, Yi Ro said. Ah! Accept or refuse. No, this matter, accept or refuse. Aren't you angry? I've done something wrong to you, the heartless and ungrateful kind, angry. So I asked you to marry me. Accept or refuse. I accept. Good. Yi Ro nodded and said, go back and prepare the betrothal gift. After that, she turned around and walked back the way she came. Her back was soft and beautiful, and her 2 long legs were light and powerful, as if she was stepping on the strings of a piano. Fang Yen was stunned on the spot and hadn't come to his senses until now. He knew that Yi Ro usually didn't talk much, but she had a very high IQ. Is it because she hates me so much that she wants to force me to marry her, and then have a bunch of children and beat my children every day to get back at me? Thinking of this possibility, Fang Yen almost burst into tears. My children are so pitiful. These women are so scheming. Fang Yen walked back home in a daze. His grandfather, Fang Huwei, was sitting in a chair and drinking tea. Seeing that Fang Yen had returned, he handed over the teacup in his hand and shouted, Boy, go and pour me another cup of tea. The pastries given by the little girl Wan are delicious, but a little too sweet. I need to drink more water to get rid of the greasiness. Hey, why are you back so soon? He sized up his grandson's body and asked in puzzlement, You don't have any injuries? Didn't she break a leg or a few ribs or something? Fang Yen poured a cup of warm water and handed it over, shaking his head and saying, No. That's strange. It doesn't match that girl's character at all. Fang Huwei's face was solemn. He looked at Fang Yan's face again and said, Have you heard? That girl Yi Ro has entered the Heavenly Dao realm. She's the youngest Heavenly Dao realm expert in Swallow Dock. No, in the whole of Huaxia. I heard that the Yi family went to Sir and asked him to let Swallow Dock celebrate for 3 days. Sir agreed and engraved Yi Ro's name on a stone tablet at the village entrance. When was the last time a name was engraved on a stone tablet? It was when your eldest senior brother succeeded in ascending to the Heavenly Dao by underestimating his enemy. It's impossible to tell when a Heavenly Dao realm expert beats someone on the surface. I know you always suffer because you want to save face. If you're injured, quickly tell your family. Get someone to help you circulate your blood so that you can recover faster. Don't force yourself to bear with it. She didn't hit me. Fang Yen shook his head once again. Is that so? Fang Huwei's face looked a little regretful. Then she scolded you. It's fine even if she scolds you a little. I know that lass Ro. She doesn't hold back when she hits you, but she can't say anything harsh. Scolding you a little is already letting you off lightly. Fang Huwei suddenly thought of something as his body trembled. He said, Don't tell me Ro wants to break up with you? Has it already come to this? No, Fang Yen looked at his grandfather with a grumpy look. Can't this old man think of something better? You sold me out secretly and pretended that nothing had happened. I haven't even settled the score with you yet. Then what on earth is going on? Fang Huwei couldn't drink the warm water anymore. He stared at Fang Yen anxiously. She asked me to take responsibility, said Fang Yen. Huh? Take responsibility? How? Things have already happened. You can't do anything to Miss Zhaoga, can you? She asked me to marry her, said Fang Yen. She said that everyone in the village knows about us. If I don't marry her, it will be bad for her reputation. I'm very worried now, said Fang Yen. Worried about what? Worried that your great-grandson will be bullied by his mother, said Fang Yen. She doesn't want to get back at me, so she wants to get back at my son. When my son is born, he won't have a good life. Isn't that right? Smack. The old man, Fang Huwei, smashed a sandalwood stick at Fang Yan's head and scolded, Are you possessed, boy? Yi Ro wants to get back at you, so she forced you to marry her to give birth to a son for you, and then bully your son? I'm just worried. Fang Yen touched his head and said with a wronged expression, Your son is not her son. If she bullies your son, isn't she bullying her own son? That's true. Besides, Yi Ro is a Heavenly Dao realm expert. Why would a heavenly Tao realm expert want to take revenge on a fickle man? If I were Ro, I would have smacked you to death. Kid, tell me quickly. Did Ro really ask you to marry her? Did you hear something wrong? Did she say when? Shouldn't our Fong family prepare something? She asked me to go back and prepare a betrothal gift. It's done. Fong Huwei slapped his thigh and said, I've already prepared the betrothal gift. Fong Huwei said with an intoxicated look, Yi Ro is a heavenly Tao realm expert. She's the youngest heavenly Tao realm expert. Although my grandson isn't very capable, my granddaughter-in-law is powerful. Let's see who dares to look down on our Fong family. Chapter 804. Children were always better than those from other families. Therefore, there was a miraculous existence, children from other families. For his good-for-nothing grandson to be able to marry the heavenly Tao realm Yi Ro, it made Fong Huwei overjoyed. Fong Yan, our Fong family's feng shui is really good. It's extremely good. Think about it. In the past century, how many heavenly Tao realm experts have appeared in Swallow Dock? 2 in total. There were only 2 of them. They were the one who underestimated the enemy 20 years ago and the one who became gentle 20 years later. Both of them were members of the Fong family and had a close relationship with the Fong family. Although our Fong family has only one descendant, every generation is an outstanding elite. Although outsiders think that each generation is worse than the last, 20 years ago, due to Azure Dragon underestimating enemy's existence, our Fong family was not to be belittled. This time, if what you say is true and reliable, and Yi Ro is really willing to marry you, willing to marry into our Fong family, then our Fong family will have another heavenly Tao realm expert. When we return from underestimating our enemy, our Fong family will have 2 heavenly Tao realm experts holding down the fort. Old man Fong's face flushed red as he danced in joy. He was so excited that he couldn't even speak properly. 2 heavenly Tao realm experts. How powerful would that be? There are only a few heavenly Tao realm experts in all of Huaxia. At that time, even if you were an idiot, no one would dare belittle you. Grandpa. Fong Yan was very displeased with the old man's words. Why did he become an idiot? Although his current martial strength was a little weak, and his heart of Taiji had yet to fully recover, he couldn't be considered an idiot, right? He still had a mind that was good at scheming, and he had the intelligence to devise strategies. He also had a handsome face and an outstanding bearing. How could he be an idiot? Old man Fong Huwei completely ignored Fong Yan's displeasure and continued expressing his joy. Do you know what it means for Yi Ro, who is at the heavenly Tao realm, to marry into our Fong family? It means that our Fong family will rise again. It means that no one will dare to bully our Fong family again. It means that your battle with the general family, that bunch of bastards will have to consider if they can withstand the revenge of our Fong family's women. Grandpa, you shut up! Fong Huwei shouted. Fortunately, he's gentle, affectionate, righteous and broad-minded. He doesn't care about what you've done outside. Otherwise, wouldn't this great marriage be ruined by you? Do you know how much effort I've put into making this marriage happen? Do you know how they treated me the first time I went to challenge the Yi family? She didn't care about you at all. If I didn't ask Yi Ro to beat you every year, and sometimes a few more times, how could you two have such a deep relationship? Can you get to where you are today and win the heart of a beauty? Behind every successful grandson, there must be a grandfather who silently contributes. Grandpa, go and call your mother over. Fong Huwei waved his hand at Fong Yan and said, I have to discuss with her who to find as a matchmaker. I also have to ask Sir to help me find a good date to send the betrothal gift. It would be best if he can calculate the date of the wedding. By the way, we also have to think of a good matchmaker. The Yi family is not an ordinary family now. The matchmaker must have some weight. Why are you still standing there? Go quickly. Grandpa, you have a granddaughter-in-law, and you have forgotten your grandson. Besides, you haven't married your granddaughter-in-law yet. Only then did Feng Huwei take a serious look at Feng Yen. He chuckled and said, I've told Wen Rowan that if you make that kind of emotional mistake again, she doesn't need to do anything. I'll punish you according to the family rules. Feng Yen went to call his mother Lu Wan. Lu Wan was very happy to hear that Yi Ro agreed to marry him. Yes, she did say so. Then she began to discuss with Feng Huwei about who to find as a matchmaker, what betrothal gifts to send, and when to set the date of the engagement and the wedding. Feng Yen stood there for a long time and found that he was completely invisible. He was a little confused. Wasn't he the one who was going to get married? Why didn't anyone ask for his opinion? I might go back on my word, Feng Yen thought to himself. Soon, he shook his head and gave up the idea. I'm just being reserved. If I can marry Yi Ro, I'm willing to be beaten by her every day. Winter hadn't come yet, and the first snowflake was still far away. But Mr. Feng had already put on a thick gray robe, as if he couldn't stand the early cold in the hollow of Swallow Dock. Mr. Feng carried a dung basket on his back and a dung bag in his hand. He casually picked up the dung from the animals at the foot of the road while talking to Feng Yen. Ro is still ahead of you. There was a comfortable smile on Mr. Feng's face, which was a compliment to the outstanding achievements of the younger generation of Swallow Dock. People used to say that Yi Ro was a rare martial arts prodigy in Swallow Fort. That's right, but it's also wrong. Seeking for martial arts is a mysterious thing. Some people take the first 99 steps, but they get stuck at the last step, and it's hard for them to take the last step in their lifetime. Some people fall behind by 99 steps, but the latecomers catch up, as if they took the 100 steps in one night. At that time, there were 4 people in Swallow Dock who stood on the same level: Yi Ro, Bailey Lu, and Bai Xiu. I'm not praising Bai Xiu because he is my apprentice, but because he really has the talent in this area and can give people enough expectations, and you can't deny that he worked harder than the 3 of you. Feng Yen nodded and said, I don't deny that. Bai Xiu worked harder than us. He wasn't a member of Swallow Dock, and he couldn't integrate with us. Because he came from the outside, and because he was too outstanding or too hard-working, we all ostracized him, whether intentionally or unintentionally. Perhaps this was also the cause of everyone's deep resentment. At that time, we were indeed too young and impetuous, and did a lot of things wrong. What choice did we have at that time? Mr. Feng shook his head and sighed. It's natural for young people to fight and quarrel. Even ordinary young children will quarrel for years and not speak. What's more, this is Swallow Dock. If you're not convinced, I won't admit defeat. Isn't that a very normal thing? It's still the mentality. If the mentality is crooked, the steps will also be crooked. Swallow Dock can't tolerate him. Mr. Feng picked up a pile of dried cow dung on the ground and carried the dung basket forward. But now, only Yi Ro has stepped onto the Heavenly Dao, becoming the youngest Heavenly Dao realm expert in Swallow Dock. So, she's ahead of all of you. This is a great thing for Swallow Dock. How many years has it been since Swallow Dock had a Heavenly Dao realm expert? It wasn't easy for us to have someone like Mo Qingdi, but in the end we encountered such a thing. So, when Dawen came to me to ask Swallow Dock to celebrate this matter for 3 days, I agreed immediately. With such a thing happening, I'd be happy even if it's a 30-day celebration. Feng Yen nodded and said, It's indeed something to be proud of. Gently stepping onto the Heavenly Dao is very beneficial to us. Bailey Lu has been like a madman for the past few days, trying to find a way to break out of the cage. Such matters can't be rushed. It comes naturally and goes with the heart, Mr. Feng said with a smile. So, are you ready to marry Ting Nuan? That's the case, Feng Yen said with a nod. Then, he looked up at Mr. Feng and asked, Does Mr. Feng already know? I knew a long time ago, Mr. Feng said. Feng Yen smiled and said, I've troubled everyone regarding Gentle and me. It is indeed troublesome, Mr. Fong said with a nod. Before you came back when Nguyen came to see me, oh? Fang Yen looked at Mr. Fong with a puzzled gaze and asked, "What did Gentle look for you for?" "She said she wanted to marry you," Mr. Fong said. "Back then, why did she look for you to say this?" You should know what Gentle's ascension to the heavenly Tao means to the Yi family, right? I know. Fang Yen nodded. The Yi family's reputation is rising again. No one can stop it. That's right, Mr. Fong said with a smile. The Yi family's development these years has been too smooth and too rapid. Not only is it unstoppable in Swallow Dock, but it has also formed its own faction in the outside world and become a behemoth. The three tigers of the Yi family have outstanding abilities, but they are low-key and introverted. It must be easy for you to overlook Yi Daoling's influence in the political world and Yi Daoxuan's power in the military, right? Fang Yan's mind turned and he looked at Mr. Fong and said, "Gentle is worried?" On the one hand, Gentle is a little worried. Although the men of the Yi family look like mountains and rivers on the surface, they are extremely tough in their bones, proud and awe-inspiring, and not easily subdued. The development of the Yi family is naturally a good thing for the Yi family. But blessings and misfortunes go hand in hand. Who can be sure that this is not a bad thing? Gentle wants to put a break on the Yi family, so she has to leave the Yi family. The best way to leave the Yi family is to marry into your Fong family. Mr. Fong looked at Fang Yen and said, "The Fong family used to be glorious, especially during the period of don't underestimate the enemy. They even walked to the peak of glory. Unfortunately, underestimate the enemy fell due to injuries, and the Fong family once again fell to the low level. These years, the Fong family's luck has not been good. Yixing died in battle, and your heart of Tai Chi is also fluctuating and uncertain. So, at this time, Yi Gentle marrying into your Fong family is the best of both worlds." Fang Yan's face was burning with pain. He said, "You mean, I'm a burden?" "You can't say that," Mr. Fong said as he strode forward with the manure basket. "It's just luck. You don't have too much psychological pressure. Gentle is a good child. Even if she enters the Fong family's door, I'm sure she won't treat you too badly." Chapter 805. Fang Yen had always felt that he was the youngest, most handsome, and fair-skinned successor of the Fong Tai Chi. Why did others feel that he was pitiful and deserving of sympathy? He could be Fang Yen, the Fang Yen who fought against the Qianya military department, the Fang Yen who killed the father and son of the Jiang family, the Fang Yen who forced Jiang Junling to be expelled from the family, the Fang Yen who killed the Tao addict Song Zaniang, one of the 7 addicts of Huaxia, the Fang Yen of Tiger Saw Flower City, and the Fang Yen who fought against the Jiang family head-on. As an adult who had just come of age, achieving such achievements could be described as blinding the eyes of others. Why was it that when it came out of everyone's mouths, they all seemed to despise it? Could it be that there was a man more outstanding than him in this world? Impossible. Fang Yen swallowed a few mouthfuls of saliva, then looked at the teacher and said, "Sir, I think you have some misunderstandings about me, Walala." The teacher poured the feces in the basket into the manure pond in the backyard, then placed the basket in the corner of the wall. He rubbed his hands and pushed open the small wooden door. He washed his hands by the well in the yard, then took a black towel and wiped his face. Only then did he look at Fang Yen and ask, "What misunderstanding?" "I think I'm quite powerful too," Fang Yen said. The teacher grinned and asked, "How are you powerful?" "The Jiang family has always wanted to kill me, but they haven't been able to until now, so I'm very powerful." "How many of the people the Jiang family wants to deal with are still alive and well?" Fang Yen said with a serious expression. "Moreover, I might not lose. Have you ever thought that the Jiang family might lose this time? If the Jiang family loses, what will the result be? How will other people look at this matter? What kind of expression will they use to look at me?" The teacher rubbed his wrinkled old face and nodded. What you said is not impossible. I think you won't lose. Fang Yen was overjoyed and asked, Do you think I will win? It's also hard to win, the teacher said. You're in a dilemma now. Fang Yen began to dislike Sir. He had changed. He had become very strange, almost like his two masters. If you have something to say, can't you just say it all at once? Why did they have to make it so complicated? The man didn't care about Fang Yan's disdainful look. He pushed open the door and walked in. He sat down on his old rattan chair as if his body was exhausted. He waved at Fang Yan and said, Go pour me a cup of tea. Fang Yan responded. He saw a big teapot on the table and poured a big bowl of herbal tea from the teapot and handed it over. The teacher didn't take it and shouted angrily, You brat, you're too insensible. I'm already so old, and it's such a cold day, and you're giving me this kind of herbal tea. Aren't you afraid of freezing my body? If your grandfather asked you to pour tea, would you pour this kind of herbal tea for him? Fang Yan's face was full of grievance. He knew that with Sir's martial arts cultivation, not to mention drinking a bowl of cold water, even if he was soaked in ice water 24 hours a day, it wouldn't freeze his body. This old man was so unreasonable. However, thinking of Sir's martial arts cultivation, Fang Yan didn't dare to offend him. So, he quickly ran over and added half a bowl of hot water into the tea bowl. Only then did Sir take a big gulp. He looked at Fang Yan and said, Sit. Fang Yan sat in front of Sir and said, Sir, I'm from Swallowdock. I've been bullied outside. You have to help me. Sir held the tea bowl and looked at Fang Yan, asking, You want to borrow power? I want to borrow a knife. Fang Yan said, If the young and old of Swallowdock unite, even 10 families of generals won't be enough for us to kill. We can kill our way to the general's old mansion in a minute. You and that old man Jiang Shifu are old friends, so I'll leave him to you. Although your martial arts are good, you have to be careful of him using a spear. I think people at his age can do anything shameless. And then the generals will disappear. We'll return to Swallowdock and continue to live and work in peace. Fang Yan said with a smile. I can't promise you. You know I won't promise you. You're pushing Swallowdock into a pit of fire. If Swallowdock really did something like that, would it still be Swallowdock? Would anyone still tolerate our existence and give us these privileges? I'm just saying. Fang Yan rubbed his nose and smiled bitterly. I just feel so suffocated. Others are already bullying us, but we can't do anything. We can only passively take a beating. This isn't our style. If those heroes who sacrificed themselves knew that their descendants were in such dire straits, do you think they'd be so angry that they'd come back to life and fight the generals? If the generals were really unscrupulous, they wouldn't have only shown this little bit of power. Haven't you noticed? They've always been doing things within the rules. Whether it's touching Du Qing or suppressing the businesses of Chao Yen and your partners, they're all tactics that can be used in business competition. This is also why we can't stand out and say anything. Could it be that just because you came from Swallow Fort that others couldn't snatch or touch your business? Or maybe it's because the generals have deep connections behind them that no one can compete with them head-on. This is obviously unreasonable. But it's immoral for them to kidnap people. Fang Yan said angrily. Master glanced at Fang Yan and said, You killed the Tao Attic Song Zaniang. Will the generals jump out and reason with you? So, no one is actually willing to reason with us now. No. On the surface, everyone is reasonable. On the surface, they're not reasonable. In private, there are many things that can't be done. Master, you're not willing to come out. Why do you need to come out? Master smiled. If you sit here and don't move, the people behind the generals can't move either. If you move first, they'll follow suit. That's true. Fang Yan sighed. Fang Yan's hands and feet were tied. The generals also couldn't use more of their power. If he didn't have an existence like Swallowdock behind him, They could probably do a lot of things to make him disappear into thin air. Now that he had to act economically, he had to admit that they must be very uncomfortable. "You're right about one thing," Master said. "Which one?" "You said you're very powerful," Master said. Fang Yen grinned and said, "Master, do you really think so? Do you know why I don't think you'll lose? Because I can't see through you." Master finished half of the tea in his bowl, then handed the empty bowl to Fang Yen and said, "I've seen through so many people, but there are only two I can't see through. One is Bai Xiu and the other is you. Master Zhang has a bad eye for people. I told you a long time ago that Bai Xiu wasn't a good person, but you didn't believe me. Now do you know why I kept my distance from him?" "That's true," Master smiled bitterly. "But I can see that you have a drive in your bones. This drive is very terrifying, it can make you do anything. Even if you suddenly defeated the generals tonight, I wouldn't be surprised at all. Because I don't know what you can do, I can't even guess what you're planning. To get to where you are now, isn't it because of this drive?" "I'm currently taking a beating," Fang Yen said. "The situation in Flower City isn't very optimistic. I'm planning to return tomorrow after seeing you. What kind of logic is that, leaving your friends behind? The men of Swallow Dock can't do such a thing." Master looked at Fang Yen and said, "You won't go back. Why do you say that, Master?" "Because you didn't get anything." "What? You didn't get anything from this trip back to Yanjing," Master said. "That's not your style." "What do you mean, Master?" "You came to Yanjing at the most critical moment in Flower City, which means you must have some plans in Yanjing. If you didn't get anything, why would you leave Flower City at this time?" "Didn't I say that I came to Yanjing to get reinforcements?" Fang Yen spread his hands and shrugged helplessly, saying, "I just didn't get any reinforcements." "If you didn't come to Yanjing, wouldn't you know the final result of this trip? Whether the Qin family will make a move, whether Qin Etienne will make a move. Couldn't you have calculated all of this?" Master looked at Fang Yen thoughtfully and said, "Fang Yen, what do you want to do?" Fang Yen looked at Master for a long while, then got up and bowed to Master, saying, "Thank you for your advice, Master. I know what to do." With that, he turned and walked out of the door of the small house. "Fang Yen," Master called out. Fang Yen turned to look at Fang Yen and asked, "Master? I've already announced the news of Wenruru successfully climbing to the heavenly Tao realm. Swallow Dock will celebrate for 3 days. I've also spread the news of you and Wenruru getting married, and the day of the wedding has been chosen. It'll be on the 8th of the 12th lunar month. It'll be appropriate for you to get married." Fang Yen stood in the yard and bowed to Master again, saying, "Thank you, Master." Master waved his hand and said, "Go do what you need to do. You can lose, but you have to come back alive. If you're alive, there's hope. If you're dead, you're just a handful of dirt." Fang Yen smiled and said, "Don't worry, Master. I definitely won't lose." Chapter 806. Qin Chang was very busy these 2 days. He was busy contacting the direct descendants of the Qin family to form an anti-feminist alliance, helping each other and working hand in hand. Those who were strong would contribute, and those who were weak would fool their parents to contribute. No matter what, he had to overthrow the 2 mountains that were riding on the heads of the Qin family's males. Qin Chang was very busy, and it was worth it. He found that almost all the young men of the Qin family were not satisfied with Li Xinyan and Qin Etienne taking over the power of the Qin family. They were all dignified 7-foot men. They had manners and were capable. How could they live with such a small amount of dividends every month? A real man should take over the power of the Qin family. No matter what, they had to drive the mother and daughter away this time. As for who would take over the power of the Qin family, it was not up to him as a junior to decide. However, he personally thought that his 4th uncle was very qualified. He was his father's brother, and he had doted on him since he was a child. If fourth uncle were to take over, she would become the Qin Etienne she was now. Just thinking about it made her feel a little excited. Mansion number 1. In order to avoid being noticed, Qin Chang had arranged for everyone to gather there. The other brothers were running around outside, while he stayed in the center to collect information and control it. Qin Guan, how is your contact? Qin Chang asked when he saw Qin Guan striding into the room. Qin Guan asked the servant to bring him a cup of Longjing tea. Then he answered Qin Chang's question. My father, my mother, and my uncle have made a decision. They said that some things should be considered carefully. The Qin clan had a lot of men, and the children were all capable. How could they be allowed to idle around all day and do nothing? They have to find opportunities to gain experience, don't they? Qin Chang was overjoyed. He said with a smile, Your father and your uncle are willing to stand up for us. Our chance of success has increased by 10%. I'd like to see how they will talk this time. I'm afraid that the elders in the family. Qin Guan reminded him. Do you think the elders in the family are willing to side with the mother and daughter? Wasn't it for the stability and unity of the Qin family? If they see that the people of the Qin family have changed their minds and everyone wants to kick them out of power, I'm sure at that time, they will go with the flow and agree to our request. Qin Chang excitedly analyzed the situation and said, Besides, don't your grandpa and my grandpa want their children to go there? Now that the opportunity has come, isn't it natural for them to give it a push? Qin Guan nodded repeatedly and said, Big brother, it seems that we can succeed this time. Of course. Qin Chang's expression was incomparably firm. This is not only our thoughts, but also the thoughts of all the uncles in the family. Think about it, 2 women forcefully oppressing 2 generations of men in the Qin family. Who would feel good? Their current situation is our future. What we have to go through in the future, they have endured for many years. This is a war of justice. Anyway, I'll follow you. Qin Guan smiled and said, Brother, your wedding date is approaching, right? Qin Chang patted his head and said with annoyance, Look at me, I almost forgot something important. We agreed to try on wedding dresses today, but I was so busy that I forgot it. Qin Guan was also anxious and said, Big brother, this kind of thing can't be delayed. Hurry up and get busy. Leave the rest to us. Qin Chang patted Qin Guan's shoulder and said, Let's keep in touch. After saying that, he got up and walked outside. When he walked downstairs, the driver was already waiting at the gate of the number 1 mansion. Go to the Imperial Court, Qin Chang said. The driver nodded and drove the car to the Imperial Court. The Imperial Court was the most famous wedding photography shop in Yanjing and even the whole country. It was famous for providing personalized, customized services. Besides, it was only open to the public on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. The rest of the time, it was closed and only served some special guests. Sometimes, the entire Imperial Court would only decide on a plan for a couple. When Qin Chang rushed over, Li Junling had already arrived. Li Junling was in the midst of choosing a wedding dress with the beautiful boss of the Imperial Court, Chen Mengyao, as well as the head designer, Mu Bai, and the others. When he saw Qin Chang enter, he only glanced at him indifferently and smiled. I thought you forgot. How come? Qin Chang walked quickly to Li Junling and said, I've been thinking about it. It's just that I didn't finish some things at hand, so I came a little late. Junling, don't mind it. Li Junling shook his head and said, Why would I? Men have their own things to do. If I mind it, how can we live together in the future? Mr. Qin is gentle and considerate, and Miss Li is beautiful and generous. What an enviable couple! The beautiful boss of the Imperial Court, Chen Mengyao, complimented them. Qin Chang nodded at her and said, Any man who can spend a lifetime with a woman like Junling will take care of her in every possible way. I'm far from doing enough. Li Junling held Qin Chang's hand and leaned into his embrace and said, I believe you. We will definitely be happy in the future. Do you think this dreamy princess dress that I chose looks good? Qin Chang looked at the blue princess dress that was made from fairy tales and nodded. Junling is a princess. You will definitely look good in this wedding dress. You will be the most beautiful bride in the world. There are a few more in front. I think that angel white dress is also very good. Let's go take a look. Miss Junling, if you like it, you can try it on, Chen Mengyao encouraged. Can I? Li Junling asked with a smile. Of course, Chen Mengyao nodded. Li Junling looked at Qin Chang and said, Do you feel bored? Why would I? Qin Chang had a doting expression. To me, nothing is more important than what we are doing today. Then let's try it, Li Junling said. The chief designer, Mu Bai, gave the order. A group of wedding dress store employees behind him immediately got busy. Li Junling went into the inner room to try on the wedding dress, while Chen Mengyao invited Qin Chang to the rest area for tea. Because she knew Qin Chang's identity, Chen Mengyao tried her best to please him. She personally brewed a cup of tea for him and said with a smile, Young Master Qin, you have to invite me to your wedding. Let's go and bask in the happiness. Qin Chang was in a good mood that day. He immediately agreed to Chen Mengyao's request. He said to the bodyguard standing beside him, Ming, remember this. You will personally deliver the invitation to Miss Chen. The bodyguard bowed in agreement, indicating that he would keep this matter in mind. At that moment, Qin Chang's phone rang in his pocket. He took out his cell phone and saw that it was Qin Guan's number. Qin Chang answered the phone and said with a smile, Qin Guan, you are doing this on purpose, aren't you? You know that I have something important to do today, but you just had to call me at this time. Brother, something happened. Qin Guan sounded a little impatient. What happened? Qin Chang tensed up. What could happen? Could it be that the two women found out about their secret contact? So what if they knew? Anyway, they had already contacted them, and it was obvious that they wanted to force them to step down. Or would the elders of the family stand up and stop them? That would be bad. At that time, should he continue or stop? Brother, that, Qin Guan stammered on the other side of the phone. Qin Guan was angry and said, Qin Guan, it's not a big deal. Things have been pushed to this point. Even if the two women know, what can they do? Don't tell me you don't have the courage to confront them after they shout at you? Look at you, don't you look like a man? Brother, it's not about that. If not this, then what is it? It's about you. What's wrong with me? Qin Guan was even more curious. Could it be that some kind of fire was burning him? Qin Guan sneered in his heart. It seemed that they had realized his importance and knew that he was the one behind it. If they wanted to shoot the bird that stood out, they had to find a way to kill him first. However, he had already established his power. They could not let him succeed with just a few words. Benefits, they had to give him enough benefits. Soon, they would come to his door and negotiate with him, wouldn't they? At that time, he would open his mouth like a lion and bite off a big piece of fat from them. Sister-in-law, Li Junling, is she with you? Call her sister-in-law. She will be your sister-in-law from now on. Why are you asking about her? Brother, didn't you see that video? Video? What video? You'd better watch it, Qin Guan said anxiously. Tell me what video? Qin Guan was a little angry. This guy could not do anything right. He could not even say a complete sentence. How could he achieve anything great? No wonder the power of the Qin family had been controlled by the two women for so long. The main reason was that these guys were useless. I'll send it to you. Then, Qin Guan hung up the phone. Ding! Qin Chang received a message on his mobile phone. He opened it and saw a recorded video. He could clearly see his fiancée, Li Junling, with a man. After watching the video, Qin Chang was short of breath and his face was red. His forehead was dripping with sweat, and he looked like he was suffering from a serious illness. General, Qin Chang roared sadly. Chapter 807. Qin Etienne reclined on the sofa, polishing her slender nails with scissors while watching the Nasdaq stock chart on the big TV screen in the room. For Qin Etienne, paying attention to the stocks of several markets every day was as important as watching the news every night to see the political trend. Mu Ying pushed open the office door and walked in. Ignoring the bad posture of this noble and elegant young lady, who looked like a peacock with its tail open 24 hours a day, he said in a clear voice, "Miss, it's very noisy outside." How so?" Qin Etienne asked without raising her head. She had just finished repairing the 5 fingers of her left hand, and there were still 5 fingers on the right that had not been repaired. Women had a lot of things to deal with every day, and every one of them seemed to be extremely important. She couldn't be careless at all. The other families have united a lot of people, saying that they want to force the elders in the family to abdicate. They think that Madam and Miss are a little powerless to control such a big family business. They think that as the men of the Qin family, they should stand up and share some obligations and responsibilities. Anyway, that's what they said. Share obligations and responsibilities. A sneer appeared on Qin Etienne's lips, but it was fleeting. It seemed that, in her heart, looking down on them was looking up to them. The family releases more than a dozen entrepreneurial projects every year. Why don't they have the guts to take them? Occasionally there are a few cases. How about the performance? Are there any profits or hopes of making profits in the future? Did they really not know what they were made of? Jumping out at this time to make trouble, it's really, idiot. Qin Etienne's sexy mouth jumped out 2 gentle words. Miss. Mu Ying knew that the young lady he served was arrogant and didn't care about ordinary people at all. He had to persuade her. Do you want to remind Madam? Madam has been too busy recently. I'm afraid that she hasn't noticed what's going on here. After all, it seems that it's just a few children playing, but in fact, there are adults and elders behind them. If Madam doesn't guard against them at all, I'm afraid that they will bite her when the time comes. Qin Etienne glanced at Mu Ying and said, Mu Ying, you are becoming more and more meticulous. Mu Ying acted as if he had done something wrong. He didn't dare to look straight into Qin Etienne's eyes and said embarrassedly, Miss, am I worried for nothing? It's not superfluous. Qin Etienne lowered his head to trim his nails again. At least I know your sincerity. Do you know why idiots can never accomplish something? Qin Etienne asked. Mu Ying shook his head and said, Maybe he's too stupid? It's one thing to be stupid, but your partners are also stupid. This is more sad. They collude with each other, and the people they colluded with run out to leak information to claim credit. How can such a group of people succeed? I was worrying too much, Mu Ying said with a smile. I didn't expect them to be so stupid. I talked to Mother about this. She said to let them play, she's busy. Qin Etienne looked up at the latest stock index and pointed to 2 stocks, saying, Buy 97002 and 16321. Buy as much as you have. The confidential secretary heard this and immediately passed on this order. Qin Etienne focused on trimming his nails again and said, Is there any news about Fang Yen? Mr. Fang went back to Swallow Dock. Mu Ying said with a smile. Before this, Master Xia of the Xia family met him. It was Xia who introduced him to Yi Dowling. Yi Dowling also invited him to breakfast. Back to Swallow Dock. Qin Etienne stopped cutting her nail clippers. She's at Swallow Dock too, she said thoughtfully. Her? Mu Ying immediately understood Mrs. Worry and said with a smile, Miss, do you want to go out and relax? What's the point of fighting? Qin Etienne shook his head. If I go there now, I'll just throw my modesty on the ground and let others step on it again. If I can succeed, I don't care about this. But there's no hope. There's no hope at all. I can see that Mr. Fang has feelings for Mississippi, so what? Qin Etienne asked. He said it's a teacher-student relationship. Obviously not. Since he said so, I can only believe him. Qin Etienne smiled bitterly. Who asked me to be one step later than her? It was like a beautiful flower had lost its moisture in an instant. At this moment, Qin Etienne was still extremely beautiful, but she had lost the aura that she exuded from her bones. Mu Ying thought for a while and said, "Miss, you are not someone who gives up easily." "Is that so?" Qin Etienne thought about it and said, "Indeed. If I want something, I will definitely get it." Then Fang Yen. He is an exception. Qin Etienne shook his head. "My feelings for him are like a needle piercing into his flesh. The harder I try, the more pain he will feel. Since that's the case, why don't I make it easier for him?" Qin Etienne waved his hand and said, "Get out, I don't want to talk anymore." Mu Ying and Qin Etienne's confidential secretary left together, leaving only Qin Etienne in the spacious office. Qin Etienne threw the nail clipper into the box and lay down on the soft leather sofa. His black pupils looked at the boundless sky through the transparent glass. He sighed deeply and muttered to himself, "She's here too." Pornographic videos spread faster than viruses. The former tried to seduce you, while the latter made you impatiently fly into the fire like a moth to a flame. At first, it spread in a small circle in Yanjing. Soon, it spread to a larger and larger area. Finally, it was out of control and spread to a wider range of people. Although the major media and chat software blocked and deleted the video immediately, some things had been deeply hidden in people's minds. No matter what antivirus software you used, you couldn't find it. Li Junling, that bitch, looks so cold on the surface. I didn't expect that she could do such a thing in the dark. TSK, the Queen of Piano's figure looks good. Let's bet, Qin Chang versus General Heng. Who do you bet on to win? There was a lot of discussion and sarcasm. The world was full of different forms. Everyone knew that a storm was about to come. However, the two parties involved maintained an unusual silence on this matter. No, it was the three parties involved. Whether it was Li Junling, Qin Chang, or General Heng who intervened in their relationship, none of them expressed any opinion on this matter. Even after the video was released, the three never appeared in public again. During the turbulent times in Yanjing, Fang Yen was dragged by his grandfather, Fang Huwei, to the Yi family to propose marriage. The matchmaker that Fang Yen hired was Mr. He was considered the most respected person in Swallow Dock, so it wasn't considered a disgrace to the Yi family. When Mr. came, the Yi family's patriarch also came out to accompany him. Mr. looked at Yi Daowen, Yi Daoling, and the three Yi brothers who had yet to leave and said with a smile, "Dao Xian has lived in the village for a short period of time. He has been busy with the military, so there are many things that he isn't very clear about. Daowen has been living in the village for a long time, and Daoling has come back from time to visit. The two of you should be familiar with this child, Fang Yen. It can be said that we watched him grow up. It's easy for Swallow Dock to produce talent. Let's not talk about the past. Your Yi family's three tigers, which one of them isn't awe-inspiring outside? There's also Mo Qingdi, who stepped into the heavenly Dao realm. Although he suffered this calamity because of his carelessness, it's not impossible for him to recover. If he were to really find the ice dragon's tendon to mend his remnant meridians, wouldn't he still be a heavenly Dao realm expert of our Swallow Dock? In the entire world, how many people are capable of fighting against him? There's no need to mention Wen Nuan. She's a rare martial arts prodigy of our Swallow Dock. She succeeded in reaching the heavenly Dao realm at a young age, and is the youngest heavenly Dao realm expert of our Swallow Dock in all of Huaxia. Yesterday, Daowen came to me and said that he wanted to hold a celebration for 3 days. I wouldn't even agree to it for 3 months, much less 3 days. Wen Nuan is a good child. Fang Yen is also a good child. And what's even rarer is that the two of them know each other well and have feelings for each other. Yesterday, when I went out to pick up feces, old Manly, who lives in the east, even joked with me that he saw the Fang family's kid and the Yi family's lass walk past his door. He said that he had to come over and have a drink when the two of them set up a feast. The villagers are also looking forward to attending their wedding feast. Sir's gaze landed on Yi Daowen's face as he said with a smile, Daowen, you are Wen Nuan's father. Logically speaking, this matter should require your approval. Now that the Fong family has sent the betrothal gifts over, it's now your turn to discuss it. He used his finger in his sleeve to point at the mountain of betrothal gifts inside and outside the house and asked, Are you going to accept these betrothal gifts or not? Are you going to nod or shake your head? Say it in front of everyone. Yi Daowen's expression was gloomy as he stared intently at Fong Yen. This left Fong Yen depressed as he thought to himself, It's useless even if you stare at me. I still haven't fully figured out the situation. Yin Wan sat beside Patriarch and saw her father remain silent. The other two uncles didn't seem to have any intention to speak either. Yin Wan glanced at Patriarch and said with a clear and firm voice, I've accepted the betrothal gift. I agree to the marriage. Chapter 808. I accept the betrothal gift, and I agree to the marriage. While the Yi family remained silent, Yi Ro agreed to Fong Yan's proposal. She was in charge of everything. Ro, you can't do this, Yi Daowen hurriedly stopped her. Even though he knew his objection wouldn't have much effect. But when he thought that the daughter he raised was about to be tricked away by a bastard to become another man's wife, he felt a deep anger in his heart. That bastard, how could he cheat his precious daughter away? Yes, Ro, marriage is not a game. We know your relationship with Fong Yen, but this matter, shouldn't you think it over? Yi Daoling's objection was very tactful. He only said, think it over, but he didn't reject it outright. He saw Yi Ro's determination. If he forcefully opposed it, it would only incite the conflict between the Yi family and Yi Ro, forcing her to make an even more extreme choice. It was better to make some space for both sides to calm down. Maybe something bad would happen while they were thinking, and then Yi Ro wouldn't like Fong Yen anymore? What if it was like this? Ro, I think your father and second uncle are both reasonable. Yi Daoxian was serious in speech and manner, and he always had a straight face when persuading people. He said aloud, You and Fong Yen have known each other for many years, but you've only been in love for a few days. In such a short time, are you sure you've truly understood this man? Is he also able to completely understand you? Moreover, marriage is different from love. After marriage, you have to live together day by day, year by year. Everyone's strengths and weaknesses will be magnified infinitely. Some subtle things that are originally overlooked by others, after accumulating for a long time, may very well become some explosive points of conflict between two parties. Fong Yan's excellence is undeniable, and it is also a matter worthy of blessing and gratification that the two of you can be together. However, we only hope that you can be more cautious and be more responsible for your marriage. Wait a while, see if the two of you are suitable for each other, think if you have the courage to tolerate all of each other's weaknesses, and walk together through thick and thin. Ro, what do you think? Yi Daoxuan's words were reasonable, and there was no way to refute them. Even Fong Yen thought what he said made sense. Marriage was not a child's play. Yi Ro should think about it carefully. I have so many problems. What if Yi Ro can't take it anymore and wants to divorce me? If he didn't agree, what if she hit him? She was a heavenly Dao realm expert, and he wasn't her match. Wouldn't this be the result of her domestic abuse every day? Besides, Fong Yen had a guilty conscience. Although he had confessed his relationship with Lu Chaoga to Yi Ro didn't give him any instructions. What was she thinking in her heart? Would he mind my relationship with Lu Chaoga? In other words, she would break both her legs and lock herself at home. There were many problems that needed to be carefully considered. We can't wait. Yi Ro glanced at Fong Yen and said, What if someone else takes it away? The atmosphere at the scene suddenly became extremely strange. Everyone looked at Yi Wenro with a dull expression. The woman who said this. Was she really the arrogant and cold iceberg Yi Ro who never looked anyone in the eye? Even Fang Yen himself widened his eyes. This was obviously not Yi Ro's style. Was she possessed by Qin Tian? The gentleman coughed violently. It was unknown whether it was because of a physical illness or a physiological reaction. He coughed so hard that it looked like he was going to cough out his internal organs. The young people's style changed too quickly. As an old man, he couldn't keep up. Old man Feng Huwei was stunned at first, then a strong smile appeared on his face. He looked at Yi Ro with joy, as if he liked her more and more. The old man was also happy. All the teeth in his mouth fell off. He reached out and patted Yi Ro, who was sitting next to him, but he couldn't say a word. The three Yi brothers were the most embarrassed at the scene. They didn't expect Yi Ro to say such a thing. First, they were extremely shocked, then their faces turned purplish red. Yi Daowen looked at his daughter with disappointment and said, "Ro, you are a girl. How can you say such a thing? If he is really snatched away, it's better not to have such a man. This. Ro, your thoughts are wrong." Yi Daoling coughed twice as well, as if he had been infected by the gentleman. "You are beautiful and smart. Furthermore, you are the youngest Heavenly Dao Realm expert in all of Huaxia. You are the only girl like you in all of Huaxia. As long as you are willing, you can find the best man. What kind of man can't you find? Women need to be strong and brave, but they also need to have an independent personality. You must not lose yourself. That will be an obstacle to your path of seeking the Tao." Yi Daoxian no longer wished to speak to this junior of his. He felt that Yi Ro had been brainwashed. When had Yi Ro ever spoken to someone like this in the past? They hadn't met for a period of time. How did she become like this? At this moment, Fang Yen had no choice but to step forward and say something. After all, be it Sir or his grandfather, the reason why they were here was to help him marry Yi Ro. Fang Yen smiled at Yi Daowen's ferocious gaze and said, "Uncle, I understand how you feel. The daughter you have raised for more than 20 years is suddenly going to become another man's wife. You must be very disappointed and find it hard to accept. The reason why you feel this way is because you are a good father. You love your daughter with all your heart." Yi Daowen's expression softened a little, but on second thought, "I obviously love my daughter with all my heart. What does it have to do with you that I love my daughter?" Hence, he glared at Fang Yen with an even more ferocious gaze. "Sir is here, and my grandfather is also sitting here. I swear on the reputation of Sir and my grandfather that I will treat Ro well for the rest of my life. I will make her a strong and brave woman with an independent personality and an eternally beautiful woman. I will make her a blissful wife. For this, I am willing to give up everything I have." When saying this, Fang Yen looked at Yi Ro. This was from the bottom of his heart, and it was also what he had always wanted to say to Yi Ro. He hoped that Yi Ro could feel his sincerity, and he also believed that Yi Ro would touch his heart. Sure enough, Yi Ro's gaze also looked at him. Their gazes collided in the air, and then entangled together, unable to separate. The most beautiful love in this world was, holding hands together, touching lips together, and colliding gazes in the air. All of it. Yi Daoling raised his eyebrows, and there was an inexplicable smile on his face. He looked at Fang Yen and asked, "What if Ro makes you give up the hatred outside, and return to Swallow Dock to practice martial arts?" Fang Yen looked at Yi Ro and said, "If this is Ro's request, I will agree. You don't care about those national and family grudges? I originally didn't want to care. They were all provoked," Fang Yen said with a depressed face. Yi Ro looked at Fang Yen and said, "You can do whatever you want. Even if you marry me, you can still maintain your independent personality. You are so nice." Fang Yen was so moved that his eyes were moist. To be able to marry such a reasonable wife, it was really a blessing to his ancestors. "I won't hit you in the future." Yi Ro felt that her heart was about to be melted, so she also said some words of love that could melt Fong Yan's heart. The blue veins on Fong Yan's forehead were bulging. "Dear Miss Yi, you don't have to say such words in front of me, right? Although you really think so in your heart, and I am really a little happy in my heart. Sir and my grandfather are still sitting next to me and listening. What if they suspect that my husband is not strong enough? And I will also protect you," Yi Ro said to Fong Yan. "Whoever bullies you, I will bully him." If there weren't so many people present, Fong Yan really wanted to hug Yi Ro in his arms and give her a good kiss. What an adorable lady! Why did she have to be his wife? Thinking of how he was about to marry a heavenly Tao realm expert, Fong Yan felt that be it the Jiang family or any other enemies, they were all useless. Sir laughed out loud and looked at the couple, Yi Ro and Fong Yan. He said to the Yi family's patriarch, "Look, can you bear to separate this pair of children?" The patriarch smiled as well. He held Yi Ro's tiny hand in his and gently rubbed it, saying, "What a pair of good children." The three Yi brothers looked at each other, their mouths full of bitterness. A grown girl couldn't be kept at home. The patriarch glanced at Yi Daowen, Yi Daoling, and Yi Daoxian and said, "Why don't we just leave it at that?" Yi Daoling and Yi Daoxian didn't say a word as they turned to look at their elder brother Yi Daowen. They thought to themselves, "Yi Ro is your daughter, so as her father, you have the most say. Although your say has almost been taken away by your daughter, it's even more unjustifiable for us to speak." Yi Daowen understood what his two brothers meant, but there was nothing he could do about this matter. He ignored his two brothers' expectant gazes and said to the patriarch, "Since the patriarch thinks it's good, then, let's do it at that." "It's settled," Sir said with a laugh. "The 8th of the 12th lunar month, an auspicious day. Both of you should prepare yourselves." Chapter 809. After returning home, old Master Fong Huwei shouted for Fong Yan to pour tea for him. "Tea, pour me a cup of tea." The old man's face was full of excitement, and he said to Fong Yan in a very boastful tone, "I've dug countless traps in my life, but this is the most exciting one, and also the one that earned me the most. I lost a grandson and got a granddaughter-in-law back." Fong Yan poured the tea in the teapot into a cup and added half a cup of hot water to the cup. Then he handed the cup to the old man and said, "My marriage with Wen Wan was also a trap set by you? Isn't that obvious?" The old man said bluntly, "If I hadn't shamelessly gone to the Yi family to challenge them, you wouldn't be here now. Wen Wan is a heavenly Tao realm expert. After the news is spread, wouldn't the Yi family break the door to propose marriage? Besides, even if Wen Wan wasn't a heavenly Tao realm expert, there were still a lot of people who went to the Yi family to propose marriage. Why did Wen Wan have a higher opinion of you and get closer to you? Isn't it because of those years of fighting? Wen Wan has bullied many people in Swallow Dock all these years. By Xiao, Zhu Ziden, Li Xiaotian, Bailey Lu, which one of them hasn't been beaten by Wen Wan? Why didn't Wen Wan fall in love with them but me? That's because I'm better than them. In addition to my good looks, I'm also erudite and cultured. Is this also a trap set by you? That's for sure. Isn't it a bit too unreasonable? How am I twisting words and forcing logic? If I hadn't married your grandmother and had your father, would there be a bastard like you? Isn't that a trap set by me?" Fong Yan was speechless. Listening to what he said, it seemed to make a lot of sense. Lu Wan came in from outside and asked eagerly, "Dad, how's the betrothal? Has the Yi family agreed to this marriage?" Old Master Fong Huwei put away the smile on his face and took a big gulp of tea. He said slowly, pretending to be reserved, "Can they not agree? Mr. Yi was the matchmaker, and I was also the old man. My grandson was so outstanding that no village could find him. When they saw us bringing the betrothal gifts, the Yi family was overjoyed. The Yi family's old ancestor personally nodded and said that this matter was settled. Then, this matter was settled. Lu Wan put her hands on her chest, tears overflowed from her eyes and said, "That's good. That's good. My son is getting married." As he spoke, he sobbed uncontrollably. Fang Yin knew that she was thinking of her father. Her son was about to get married, but her father had already turned into dust. There was no one to talk about his sorrow and no one to share his joy with. This kind of feeling was really unpleasant. Old Master Fang Hui's face was also gloomy. He held the teacup but could not take another sip of tea. Was there anything more sorrowful and despairing than the death of one's child? Fang Yen walked over and held his mother in his arms. He said with a smile, "Mom, this is a happy thing. Rowan and I are going to get married. Shouldn't you be happy? If we were rejected by the Yi family today, all the things we sent would be thrown back by them. At that time you should cry, right?" Puff. Lu Wan was amused by Fang Yen again. She gave him a reproachful look and said, "You silly boy, you are already a person who is going to get married. How can you still say this kind of nonsense? You and Rowan are in love. How can the Yi family not agree? Even if the Yi family does not agree, Rowan will agree." "Yes. Your son is so excellent that I love him to death." Fang Yen laughed and teased himself. He didn't want his mother to be sad, not even a drop of tears. Every tear was a knife, stabbing into Fang Yan's heart. His heart ached faintly again, and the sense of guilt that had been quiet for a long time came again. It seemed to be turbulent, like a flood or a fierce beast. If he had arrived earlier that day, if he had been able to get rid of those good-for-nothings who blocked the way as soon as possible, his father would not have died. If his father was not dead, if Fang Yixing was still alive at this moment, when he learned that his son was going to get married, would he laugh unscrupulously, or would he pretend to be serious and sternly lecture his son to treat his wife well and be gentle when he got married in the future? He would definitely choose the latter, because the latter was the character he should have. He loved Fang Yen. He loved his son more than anyone else. However, he was stingy to show it, and he firmly hid that love in his flesh and blood. Old Master Fang Hui finally raised his head, looked at Lu Wan with blame and said, "Why are you crying on a happy day? Sir, forget it. The 8th of the 12th lunar month is an auspicious day, and there are many things that need to be taken care of. As an old man, my legs are not convenient, so many things need to be decided by you, the head of the family. You go and have a good talk with Rowan's mother first, find out what the Yi family is thinking, and ask Rowan what she wants. We should prepare for what we should prepare and buy what we should buy. There are many things that need you to do, and you can't lose your health." Alas, Lu Wan remembered that she had to start preparing for her son's marriage, and her suppressed emotions were suddenly turned over, as if she had been injected with a stimulant, and said, "I'll invite Fang Yan's aunt and sister-in-law to come over and have a good talk with them. I have no experience in this kind of thing, but our Fang family can't let Rowan down." Old Master Fang Hui nodded and said, "Have a good talk and don't be stingy with money." Then he turned to stare at Fang Yen and said, "Boy, you have also made a lot of money these years, haven't you? Hurry up and contribute a little more to your mother. Our Fang family has been quiet for more than 20 years, and this time we will have a good time in Swallow Dock." Fang Yen nodded and said, "Mom, I will ask someone to send you a black card, don't be thrifty." Lu Wan waved her hand and said, "Silly boy, no matter how poor our Fang family is, we still have enough money for our children's wedding. Don't worry about these things. Just do your own thing." Fang Yen nodded, looked at his mother with concern, and said, "You have to take care of yourself. If you are too busy, ask my aunt to come back and help. Don't worry. I know how to arrange it. I have been idle these years, and I feel uncomfortable all over. How can I feel tired preparing for my son's wedding?" Lu Wan left in a hurry, as it seemed that Fang Yan's wedding was tomorrow. Fang Yan looked at old Master Fang Hui and said, "Grandpa, do you want me to push you out for a walk?" "No need." Old Master Fang Hui waved his hand and said, the marriage between you and Rur has been decided, and this is a joyous occasion for our Fong family. Your father is no longer here, but there are still some things that need to be discussed with him. At least he will be informed. You go and accompany Rur. I will go and have a word with you." Watching his grandpa push the wheelchair away, Fong Yan's heart was extremely heavy. Yururu took the initiative to look for Fong Yan and asked Fong Yan to take a walk beside Shihizi. Swallow Dock wasn't big, and what happened in the east of the village spread to the west of the village in less than an hour. The news of Yururu successfully climbing the Heavenly Dao and becoming the youngest Heavenly Dao expert in Huaxia, as well as Yururu's marriage with Fong Yan, had already spread throughout the village. The people they met on the way were very kind and enthusiastic when they saw them, and some would even stop to talk to them, asking about Yururu's experience in climbing the Heavenly Dao. Yururu didn't hide anything and told them everything. Even their attitude towards Fong Yan was a lot warmer, and some even called Fong Yan the new son-in-law. Fong Yan smiled shyly, and then thought to himself, "Shouldn't I call Yururu bride? Why does it sound like I'm marrying into her family?" Of course, Fong Yan didn't care about these details. To be able to marry Yururu, to be able to marry a woman who wholeheartedly loved him and was willing to protect him, Fong Yan's heart was filled with happiness. When they reached a slightly more remote place, no one came to disturb them, and the curved tail of Shihizi became their world. Yururu just walked with her head lowered, with no intention of speaking. Fong Yan wanted to say something several times, but he didn't want to break the moment of silence. Yururu was a very quiet person. When she didn't have to speak, she didn't like to use words to express herself. She would do what she wanted to do, and she wouldn't force herself to do what she didn't want to do. If she liked you, she would hold your hand, and if she hated you, she would chop off your hand. She had a clear distinction between love and hate. Fong Yan's heart was full of emotions. The girl who competed in the Fong family's martial arts arena for the first time was proud and stubborn, with 2 cute braids. When Fong Yan saw her, he thought it would be fun if he could pull her braid. It was really fun. Yururu knocked out 2 of his teeth and broke 3 of his fingers. At that time, Yururu was really fierce, and she wasn't gentle at all when she fought. Later, they fought once a year, and every time they met they would quarrel. Fong Yan regarded her as his archenemy, and he told all his friends bad things about her. Even in his sleep, he dreamed that he was being beaten. However, that girl was going to be his wife soon. Life was really full of surprises. Fong Yan suddenly stopped, turned around to look at Yururu behind him, and said in a deep voice, "I've been thinking that there should be a more special proposal ceremony. I'll run around Yanjing City naked and then shout, 'Yururu, marry me.' Or I'll take off my clothes and jump into Shihizi River shouting, 'Yururu, marry me.' Or we can go to the African prairie. We'll sit on a hot air balloon, and I'll kneel to you on one knee. If you don't agree, I'll cut the rope of the hot air balloon. You'll die." Yururu said, "What? If the rope is cut, I'll be fine, but you'll fall to your death." Yururu looked at Fong Yan and said, Chapter 810. Fong Yan had once read a novel called King of Fire. In the story, the male protagonist, Tang Zhong, proposed to his 2 girlfriends on a hot air balloon. Look at how shameless and unprincipled he was. Fong Yan despised Tang Zhong's actions. He thought to himself that he would never do such a thing. Even if he wanted to do it, he wouldn't dare. Tang Zhong raised the ring in one hand and scissors in the other. He said that if they didn't agree to his proposal, he would cut off the balloon's rope. In the end, the 2 girls accepted the proposal with tears in their eyes. Turned out that women were also quite afraid of death. Not only were they afraid of death, but they were also afraid of height. Fong Yan also wanted to learn from the senior idol who had many female friends. But Yi Ro's counterattack instantly woke him up. Yi Ro was a Heavenly Dao realm expert. If Fong Yan really cut off the balloon's rope in midair, The only one who would fall to his death would be Fang Yen himself. Yi Rou's chances of survival were much higher. From the looks of it, this method was a little romantic, and to some people, there was a huge loophole. Fang Yen smiled awkwardly and said, I can also run naked in Yanjing City, or jump into a stone river in front of everyone in the village. I just feel that it should be more romantic. I shouldn't use such a traditional method to directly go to your house to give the betrothal gift. Yi Rou looked up at Fang Yen and said, A man's romance isn't expressed in the moment of a proposal, but in life it can make people feel happy and at ease at all times. If you want to talk about romance, when I failed to climb the heavenly Tao and was about to go berserk, you helped me move a mountain at the expense of your life. That was the most romantic proposal I know. Fang Yen reached out his hand to touch Yi Rou's face. Yi Rou was extremely shy, but she stood there and allowed him to molest her. Strange. Fang Yen muttered to himself and said, She's not wearing a mask. Bang. Fang Yan's body soared into the air and flew backward. He quickly got up from the ground and carefully avoided Yi Rou. He said, I just find it a little strange. Logically speaking, you shouldn't say something like that. It doesn't match your character. Come here, Yi Rou called to Fang Yen. What do you want? Fang Yen was testing her step by step. He didn't dare to get too close to Yi Wenru again. No, poison leg. I'm sure you're Yi Rou. You're not someone else wearing a mask. Yi Rou reached out and pulled Fang Yen into her arms. No, she pulled Fang Yen in front of her and threw herself into Fang Yan's arms. She wrapped her arms around Fang Yan's body and said softly, I'm very happy to be your wife. Fang Yen was stunned for a moment. Then he held Yi Rou's thin body tightly in his arms. He grinned and said, I'm even happier to be able to marry you. Even my grandfather thinks that you're like a flower stuck in cow dung. My uncles think so too, Yi Rou said. Fang Yen felt that he couldn't communicate with Yi Rou anymore. Since when did this woman become a cold-faced comedian and a comedian? She wasn't good at this before. In the luxurious European-style reception hall of the Qin family's old residence, Grandpa Qin was drinking tea on the sofa. He liked drinking tea. He had a relatively open side in his bones, and could accept that the old residence was built in the style of a European castle. However, his taste in drinking tea hadn't changed for decades. In his mind, what could be better than tea in this world? Those coffee, those carbonated drinks, what's so good about them? Li Xinyan sat in front of him and tasted the coffee elegantly. She liked the bitterness and mellow taste of coffee. The smell in the air could awaken her taste buds. The other members of the Qin family stood on both sides. Everyone's eyes were focused on the woman. Li Junling, the woman who was about to become the daughter-in-law of the Qin family, had an affair with a man from the Jiang family, the old enemy of the Qin family. This was not a slap in the face of the Qin family, but a slap in the face of the Qin family. The Qin family was filled with righteous indignation and felt that they had been greatly insulted. However, the elders in the family didn't give any instructions, so they could only keep silent about this matter for the time being. They could endure and wait, but Li Junling's father, the famous piano master of Huaxia, Li Boyong, couldn't sit still. His blood pressure rose and he fainted on the spot. After knowing what had happened, he still forced himself to get up and immediately took his daughter to the Qin family to apologize. Li Boyong was an artist and was quite accomplished in piano. The Li family pushed him to be a spokesperson, using the admiration and attention of the rich and powerful to improve his family's status. In this way, he even had a relationship with the rich and powerful Qin family and successfully betrothed his daughter to the young talent of the Qin family, Qin Chang. Li Boyong was thinking that when his daughter entered the Qin family, it would be the peak of his life. He didn't expect that this daydream would come true so quickly and in such a cruel way. His daughter had an affair with a member of the Jiang family. He understood the serious consequences of this matter, It was mercy for them to find someone to put him in a sack and throw him into the sea, but it was very likely that it would be a disaster that would wipe out the entire family. Whether it was the Qin family or the Jiang family, they were the most powerful existences in the world. In a situation where they didn't lack anything, their face was more important than anything else. However, his daughter's actions had offended both families at the same time. The wedding date was near, and it was said that it happened when she was choosing a wedding dress with the young master of the Qin family. How would the Qin family view such a future daughter-in-law? What about the Jiang family? The relationship between the Jiang family and the Qin family had never been harmonious. The two families viewed each other as enemies, but they also maintained mutual restraint. After this incident, would it break the balance between the two families? It was already winter, and the room was already warm. However, Li Boyong, who was wearing a suit and shirt, was sweating profusely, and his voice trembled when he spoke. "It's all my fault. It's all my fault. Li Boyong didn't teach his daughter well, and that's why she did such a shameful thing. Now that it's like this, there's nothing I can say to help. I admit my mistake. I'm willing to bear all the responsibility and consequences." Li Boyong bowed deeply to the Qin family patriarch and said, "Please be merciful, patriarch. Seeing that Boyong and the Qin family are old friends, please let my daughter live." The Qin family patriarch's expression was calm, as if he didn't care about what was happening in front of him. After hearing Li Boyong's words, he waved his hand and said, "What are you saying? Who said I won't let your daughter live?" "Thank you, patriarch." Li Boyong's eyes were moist and he was moved to tears. Li Boyong turned to look at his daughter, who was standing behind him, and shouted, "Li Junling, kneel." Li Junling stood proudly. Although she was extremely nervous, she still gritted her teeth and said, "Why should I kneel? You did something wrong." "What did I do wrong?" Li Junling retorted. "The Jiang family and I know each other and love each other. Who did I offend? I told you long ago that I have another lover, but did you listen to what I said? You wholeheartedly wanted to send me to a rich family, wholeheartedly wanted to make friends with rich people. I have no feelings for Qin Chang, so why should I marry such a man?" Slap! Li Boyong slapped Li Junling's face. His face was gloomy, and his body trembled non-stop. He shouted angrily, "You still don't know your mistake. You did such a shameful thing and you still don't know your mistake. I'll beat you to death. I don't have a disgraceful daughter like you." Li Junling's skin was white and tender. After being slapped by her father, a purplish-red handprint quickly appeared on her face. She didn't care, as if she didn't feel any pain. Big tears fell from her eyes and she said, "Beat me to death. If you don't beat me to death, I don't want to live. If I die, you will no longer be a dog in front of these people, and they will look up to you. What does it matter if I die?" Li Junling, since I was young, when did you listen to my thoughts? I liked the guitar, but you forced me to learn the piano. When I was a little playful, you were furious and said that I didn't want to improve. When I was a little slow in learning, you scolded me for being stupid, piano goddess. Haha, who knows how this goddess came to be? I spent all my time to get it, and I sacrificed all my hobbies to get it. Genius? Can this kind of person be considered a genius? I know that the matter between me and General Xing is very difficult for you and the whole family. You are afraid, you are worried that you will be implicated. If that's the case, I will die here, in front of the Qin family to atone for my sins. In this way, they won't hurt you anymore, right? After saying that, Li Junling took out a short dagger from her pocket and slashed it toward her own neck. Bang! A figure flashed. An old nanny who was in charge of pouring water for old Master Qin suddenly appeared and grabbed the dagger from Li Junling's hand with a small move. Li Xinyan gently stirred the coffee in his cup, looked at Li Junling and said, "Miss, if you want to die, we won't stop you. Everyone has the right to choose their own life." After a pause, he then said, "But can you die a little further away?" The carpet in the hall has just been cleaned. If it gets dirty, won't we have to trouble those hard-working service staff? You are so evil. Li Junling's face was pale, and she stared fiercely at Li Xinyan. Evil. Li Xinyan took a sip of the coffee in his cup and said with a smile, Miss, if I was really evil, do you think you would still have the chance to stand in front of me and accuse me of being evil? Chapter 8:11. Every single word that Li Xinyan said was not a threat. With her current status, there was no need for her to threaten others. If she said she would kill you, then she would kill you. If she said she wanted you to disappear, then you would never be able to show your face again. Just as she said, if she was really vicious, would Li Junling and her father, Li Boyong, still have the chance to stand in the Qin family's hall today? Would they still have the chance to be judged by the Qin family, be it punishment or forgiveness? Would they still have the chance? With just a word of command, or even a reminder with a glance, the father and daughter would encounter a serious car accident or some other accident. In any case, their lives would end here, and they would never have the chance to appear in front of the public again. Or perhaps the Qin family did not need to do anything. There were countless people outside who wanted to please them. Some smart people who didn't mind doing the dirty work would do it cleanly. If it wasn't for a casual greeting at a private gathering, you wouldn't even know who sent the father and daughter away. This was the power of money, the power of power. When anything reached an extreme, the energy that it could erupt with would be astonishing and shocking. Some people were overly arrogant, while others could control this power very well. Slap, Li Boyong slapped his daughter again. Li Junling, who was unprepared, was knocked to the ground by his father. Li Boyong looked down at Li Junling and shouted angrily, Kneel and apologize to the madam. Kneel and apologize? Li Junling covered her face and sneered. What did I do wrong? Do I need to apologize to them? I just fell in love with a man. What's wrong with that? What does this have to do with them? You are Qin Chang's fiancé. I am not Qin Chang's fiancé, you are. Li Junling looked at her father and laughed, saying, You are Qin Chang's fiancé. I have never liked him, and I have never wanted to marry him. You think about it day and night. 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 You dash, Li Boyong pointed at his daughter with a trembling finger, unable to say a complete sentence. Li Junling got up from the ground and tidied up his clothes. He looked at Li Xinyan stubbornly and said, I'm not even afraid of death. How can I apologize to you people? Yes, perhaps this kind of thing has long been a common occurrence for you. The weak apologizing to the strong, regardless of whether the strong is standing on the side of reason. But today, I'm going to disappoint you. What does your apology mean to me? Li Xinyan looked at Li Junling and asked, Or, what does it mean to the Qin family? I don't care, and the Qin family doesn't care, Li Xinyan said lightly. If you were just an ordinary woman, or if you were still the goddess of piano you are now, you would have nothing to do with the Qin family. Even if you had an affair or died for love, the Qin family wouldn't even look at you. However, you're engaged to a man from the Qin family. One of your feet has already stepped into the Qin family's door. Whether it was intentional or not, at the engagement ceremony, you nodded and agreed. After the engagement ceremony, you did such a thing, which indeed made the Qin family lose face. For the time being, you have to bear the criticism of some boring people. But that's all there is to it. Even if something like this happened, the Qin family is still the Qin family. When others talk about it, the Qin family's reputation will be hurt. When you are forgotten by others, when Qin Chang has a new fiancé, can people still remember who you are? But, after this kind of thing, girl, are you still you? Li Xinyan looked at Li Junling sympathetically and said, As a woman, I can understand how you feel. But your choice is really too stupid. Until now, you still don't know what will happen to you after this matter is exposed. You also don't understand how lucky you are to be able to stand in the hall of the Qin family right now. Li Boyong's forehead was dripping with sweat, but he didn't bother to wipe it off. He kept bowing and apologizing, saying, "Madam, please don't lower yourself to her level. She is just a child who doesn't know how to appreciate favors. If you want to scold her, just direct it at me. I am her father, and I should bear the responsibility for her." Li Xinyan sneered and said, all right, Li Boyong, you father and daughter don't put on this sad drama in front of me. I have no interest in watching a drama." Yes, Li Boyong nodded repeatedly and said, "We are not acting. We are not acting, we are here to apologize. We are wrong, very wrong. No matter if we are beaten or scolded, even if Madam asks me to jump into the valley, I will not frown." Li Xinyan raised his head and looked at Li Boyong, saying, "You are a good father, but you spoil your daughter too much. Go back." "Madam?" Li Boyong looked at Li Xinyan with a frightened expression. He knelt on the ground and cried bitterly, saying, "Madam, I beg you, please let us go this time. I am willing to atone for this matter. I am willing to die for Qin Chang, for young Master Qin. I only ask that you let go of Junling, let go of the Li family." Li Junling's face was as white as paper. His father's reaction had already explained everything. The Qin family wanted to kill them to avenge their humiliation? These rich and powerful nobles, their hearts were really vicious. Did you misunderstand something? Li Xinyan's eyebrows twitched. He glanced at Li Boyong with some dissatisfaction and said, "Tears can be exchanged for forgiveness, but it can also be exchanged for double the hatred of others. Don't worry, the Qin family will not retaliate against you. From now on, the two families will no longer have any relationship. Do you understand what I mean?" "I understand." Li Boyong nodded repeatedly. The two families would no longer have any relationship. This meant that Li Xinyan had publicly annulled the marriage between Qin Chang and his daughter. His daughter had done such a thing. This was the proper response from the Qin family. In addition, the majority of the Li family's businesses were connected to the Qin family. If the Qin family severed ties with the Li family, those businesses would most likely be lost. Not only that, but they would also be attacked by those who heard the news. At that time, without the support of the Qin family, how could the Li family retaliate? They could only watch as the Li family's businesses were divided by those vicious wolves. Unless the Jiang family is willing to protect them, Li Boyong thought in a corner of his heart. Li Xinyan waved his hand and said, "Let's go back." Li Boyong crawled up from the ground and bowed to Li Xinyan, to the silent old Master Qin, and to everyone in the Qin family. Then, he pulled Li Junling's hand and walked outside. "We're letting them go just like that? That woman did such a thing. That's right, let's get someone to break her legs. Let's see how she can steal men in the future. She didn't hit or scold them. She didn't even scold them. Will outsiders laugh at the Qin family for being weak and easy to bully?" No matter what, Li Xinyan was the current head of the Qin family. When she was handling family matters, outsiders were not allowed to interrupt or criticize her. Especially when outsiders were present, the Qin family had to give the impression that they were united and harmonious. However, after outsiders left, they had the right to speak freely and express their dissatisfaction. Of course, Li Xinyan also had the right to ignore them. Li Xinyan looked at old Master Qin, who was leisurely drinking tea, and said with a smile, "This tea was plucked from the few tea trees behind Etienne's courtyard. Because Etienne watched them grow up, she treasured them very much. When she plucked the tea leaves, she didn't allow anyone to help her. She plucked the leaves by herself, and each leaf felt like she was cutting off a piece of flesh from her body. After several days of hard work, she only got 2 tails of tea leaves after frying them. She was usually very stingy and didn't usually let people drink. Only when I went to visit her would she ask someone to bring me a cup of tea. She's very close to Grandpa, so she probably gave you more than half of the 2 taels of tea leaves, right? Old Master Qin laughed loudly and said proudly, "That granddaughter of mine, Etienne, is very proud. Ordinary people can't even drink a cup of tea from her, not to mention the tea leaves she plucked herself. But Etienne is very close to me, so after she finished frying her tea leaves, she secretly gave me a small pot. She even told me not to let you find out. How did you see through it at a glance?" Li Xinyan put down the coffee cup in his hand and said bitterly, "The tea in your hands are all rare and good. How can you find tea leaves with such big leaves after brewing?" After receiving this flattery, old Master Qin felt refreshed and his smile became even more radiant. He said, "If you like it, I can also give you some. However, I'll tell you something private. You can't let that girl Etienne know about it. Otherwise, I won't be able to drink her treasured tea leaves anymore. The tea leaves she gave me really don't taste that good. It's far worse than the tea leaves I collected. But since my granddaughter has already given me the tea leaves, if I don't drink it, she'll feel hurt. That's why I brewed a cup of tea every now and then, thinking that I can finish it as soon as possible." The Qin family members in the living room looked at each other. They were seriously questioning whether this was a good way to handle things. "Why did you ignore us and talk about Qin Etienne's tea leaves?" Qin Chang pushed open the living room door, walked in, and knelt down in front of Li Xinyan. "I want revenge," Qin Chang said in a hoarse voice. Chapter 8:12. People were divided into yin and yang, and everything had 2 sides. Because of the 2 talented women in the Qin family, the 2 generations of men in the Qin family were collectively weak and couldn't stand out. Because of the arrival of Li Xinyan, the daughter-in-law of the previous generation, the power of the Qin family fell, and they became a plaything in the hands of a woman. In this generation, there was another Qin Etienne who was smart and talented, and had made a lot of achievements. Some people said that his mother was manipulating behind the scenes in order to make her daughter the prodigy of the Qin family, so that she could seize power. Some people also said that the son should be like Jiang Junling, and the adopted daughter should be like Qin Etienne, which was also the advertising slogan that the Qin family and the Jiang family paid people to hype, so that they could outshine the other rich and powerful families. When Qin Etienne grew up, some of the projects she independently invested in all showed dazzling results. It was said that she had already shown outstanding business talent when she was still a student. With her as the middleman, the Qin family and Lu Chaoge created the world-famous Chaoyan technology. When Jiang Junling died, Qin Etienne also encountered some criticism. Some people said with the mentality of watching a good show, "Look, we have already proved that one is a fake. Let's see how long the other one can last." However, no matter what people said, Qin Etienne was still Qin Etienne, still the Qin Etienne that everyone respected and looked up to. Some people said that it was a tragedy to live in the same generation as Qin Etienne. For the young generation of the Qin family, it was a complete tragedy to live in the same family as Qin Etienne. Compared with a genius like Qin Etienne, Qin Chang's ability was not obvious, and his talent in all aspects was not outstanding enough. But compared with the other young generation of the Qin family, or compared with the young people outside, he was already superior. In the past, Qin Chang was gentle and elegant, liked to protect the young generation of the family to win people's hearts, and liked to play tricks to get some small advantages. Every time Qin Chang appeared, he was beautiful. Even in Beijing, where there were crouching tigers and hidden dragons, he was considered a somewhat famous figure. Now, Qin Chang was like a different person. His hair was messy, his clothes were untidy, his eyes were sunken, and there was a pile of eye wax waiting to fall off naturally at the corner of his eyes. His face was pale, and he looked like a vampire who had not been exposed to sunlight for a long time. In the past, only young Master Qin Chang made others fall out of love. He had never experienced such an embarrassing betrayal. His fiancée had been having an affair with another man before they got married. Her twisting and moaning made countless people talk about it. These were all things he had never experienced before. He and Li Junling had never had any decent skin contact. Can you imagine that? Young masters like them were also playing innocent with others? Qin Chang really fell in love with Li Junling. He had always regarded Li Junling as his future wife. In any case, she was going to be his woman very soon, so why should he be so anxious to show that he didn't have the demeanor of a man? In the end, when he was picking out a wedding dress for his future wife, he saw such an ungentlemanly video. After the incident, Qin Chang locked himself in his room and didn't go out. Because he smoked too much, even his throat was swollen and hoarse. Every word he spoke seemed to be rubbing his throat until it bled. I want revenge. Qin Chang raised his head and looked at Li Xinyan. His yellowish eyes were bloodshot. Jiang Xing has gone too far. Li Xinyan sighed softly. He walked over and wanted to pull Qin Chang up from the ground. Qin Chang knelt on the ground and refused to get up. He looked up at Li Xinyan and said, I don't hate Li Junling. This woman has nothing to do with me anymore. But Jiang Xing's family has gone too far. I want revenge. I must get revenge. Since Qin Chang wasn't willing to get up, Li Xinyan had no reason to keep pulling him. She sat back on the sofa and looked at Qin Chang and said, How do you want revenge? I want Jiang Junling to die. I want the Jiang family to be destroyed. I want them to go to the 18th level of hell, Qin Chang said while gritting his teeth. No matter what kind of family he came from, no matter what kind of temperament he had, his fiancée having an affair with another man was something that no one could tolerate. Qin Chang was usually very prideful. He always boasted that he was the only person in the Qin family other than Qin Etian. He had his own circle of friends. Everyone who saw him would respectfully call him young Master Qin. However, everything was ruined. The moment that video was released, or the moment that his fiancée knelt under that man's body, all of his dignity and pride were destroyed. I know how childish my actions were. I also know how stupid it was for me to collude with some brothers in the family to oust you. I know that you hate me. You don't even care about me. However, I want to ask you one thing. I want you to declare war on the Jiang family. That's impossible. Li Xinyan refused without hesitation. It was as if there was no room for negotiation. Why? Qin Chang said with a pained expression. Don't you hate the Jiang family? Doesn't Qin Etian hate the Jiang family? Don't you want to declare war on the Jiang family for how they treated Fang Yan? Can you turn a blind eye and pretend nothing happened when the Jiang family humiliated me like that? Does the Qin family still want face? Do we still have dignity? Li Xinyan looked at Qin Chang with a serious expression. The Qin family belongs to everyone in the Qin family. It doesn't belong to just one person. Every decision of the Qin family must be in line with the interests of the entire Qin family. Etian doesn't like the Jiang family. I don't like the Jiang family either. However, we can't declare war on the Jiang family just because we hate them. We'll push the Qin family to the edge of danger. I definitely won't agree to that. After a pause, Li Xinyan continued. However, General Xing of the Jiang family clearly knows that Li Junling and Qin Chang are engaged. That's too much. If the Qin family doesn't do anything, the outside world will think that the Qin family is weak and easy to bully. I declare that from now on, we will cut off all business with the Jiang family. In some important areas or core areas of the Jiang family, we can have a greater say. Qin Chang froze for a while. Then, she laid on the ground and cried. She kept saying to Li Xinyan, Thank you. Thank you. Old Master Qin looked at his daughter-in-law with a smile. He leisurely drank the tea that his granddaughter gave him. The Qin family looked at each other. Was the Qin family going to declare war on the Jiang family? Stupid. Stupid beyond belief. Li Boyong wiped the sweat off his forehead as he lectured his daughter, who was sitting next to him with an ashen face. By doing such a thing, you have trampled on the Qin family's dignity. How could the Qin family forgive you? As he spoke, they were sitting in a Mercedes-Benz limousine on their way home. The driver was a Liang, Li Boyong's driver for many years. What does a family like them care about the most? What they care about the most is loyalty and face. If you make them lose face, what won't they do? You dare to give them face? You dare to say that they are vicious? Junling, you haven't seen a truly vicious thing. You usually seem to be a clever man, but this time how could you be so wrong? Li Junling looked out of the window in a daze. It was as if he didn't hear what his father said. Thank God. They finally let us go for the time being. Li Xinyan is very powerful, but she's also very magnanimous. She said she won't trouble us. That means she won't trouble us. I'm afraid that Qin Chang and other members of the Qin family won't be able to swallow it. Go abroad. Go abroad immediately. Didn't the Borna Orchestra in Vienna invite you to perform there? You should take this opportunity to go abroad. Now the limelight is at its peak. If you stay in Beijing, you won't even have a chance to go out. Li Junling was finally moved. He turned to look at his father and said, Juanxing. My dear lady, why are you still thinking about him? Li Boyong almost knelt down to his daughter. How could Juanxing jump out to support you after such a thing happened? Unless they completely fall out with the Qin family. Otherwise, he won't protect you. I'm afraid he can't even protect himself now. Daughter, don't put your hope on that man. If he really did it for you, he shouldn't have treated you like that. Li Junling reached out and held his father's hand. His eyes were filled with tears as he said, I don't blame him. I really like him. Everything is voluntary. Dad, this is the first time I've fallen in love with a man since I was young. Can you understand how I feel? Li Boyong wiped his daughter's tears. I understand. I can understand. But safety comes first. Go out quickly. Let your mother go with you. I'm worried about you going out like this. I'll stay in Beijing and think of a way. When the situation calms down, you can come back. Or never come back. Dad. Daughter, I'll teach you something. I shouldn't say it, but I think it's necessary for you to know. What? Never trust a man. Li Boyong said with a serious face. Dad, why? Li Junling didn't understand. You're a man too. Li Boyong smiled bitterly. Yes, I'm a man too. That's why I can say that. Click. The back seat door was suddenly locked. Liang, what are you doing? Li Boyong was greatly alarmed and shouted. Master, Mississippi, don't blame me. Liang opened the door and jumped out. The Mercedes-Benz deviated from the mountain road. It broke through the railing and crashed into the steep mountain stream. Dad. Li Junling grabbed the seat in front of her and screamed. Liang, you traitor! Li Boyong was also frightened by this scene and shouted in a hoarse voice. Crash! Crash! The Mercedes-Benz crashed into the stone wall again and again. It was like a black cannonball crashing into the endless purgatory. Chapter 8:13. Old House. In the courtyard. Osmanthus flowers were fragrant in October, but there was a golden osmanthus tree in the courtyard that bloomed a little late. It was only deep into winter that it emitted that frightening rich fragrance. General Xing knelt under the golden osmanthus tree, resisting the invasion of the fragrance while enduring the blows from the feather duster. Pa! General Xing was hit on the head. Pa! The feather duster hit his skull again. Pa! 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 After a dozen or so lashes, old man Shifu threw the feather duster in his hand onto the ground. He walked to the stone table and sat down. He picked up a cup of tea that was still steaming and took a sip. Do you know why I didn't slap your face? Jiang Shifu held the teacup and asked General Xing, who was kneeling there. Because you're afraid that you'll ruin your face and your grandson won't be able to go out and meet people, General Xing said in a low voice. Yes. Don't hit people in the face. I've always told you this. Why don't you listen? The cherishing fortune old man said with a face full of regret. What you're doing isn't just slapping the Qin clan's face. You're practically stepping on their heads and shitting on them. This is a huge mistake that will cause them to become enemies. Grandpa, I know I was wrong. This matter, I really had no other choice. General Xing straightened his spine and looked straight into old man Jiang Shifu's eyes, saying, I really like Junling, and she has deep feelings for me. The two of us are sincerely in love. I know what I'm doing is wrong, and I've thought about leaving her. But Lord Jun didn't agree. I was soft-hearted and couldn't make a decision. Originally, I wanted to wait until Lord Jun got married before completely severing our relationship. I didn't expect something like this to happen. Scoundrel! Jiang Shifu slammed his palm on the stone table and angrily shouted, What do you mean unable to restrain yourself? You're too daring for lust. You clearly knew that Li Junling was already engaged to the Qin family, yet you still dared to tempt him to do such an immoral thing. If the Qin family did this to our Jiang family, how would you deal with it? The hatred of killing my father and stealing my wife is absolutely irreconcilable. Now is the crucial moment in the battle between you and Fang Yan. In order to prevent the Qin family from participating in the battle, we offered a huge condition, but what was the result? Not only did you fail to balance your relationship with the Qin family, you even dragged the Qin family down with you. If a man can't control his own waistband, what future can he have? Old man Shifu's gaze turned sharp. He looked at General Xing and said, Do you think that, now that the military order is gone, I have no other candidates? Is that why you are so unbridled? Let me tell you, General, we still have many outstanding youths in the General family. With just a bit of polishing, they are all good materials. Grandpa, I'm sorry. General Xing's knees were pressed against the cold concrete floor as he said in a deep voice, I know I did something wrong. I will definitely find a way to make it up to you. I promise I'll take care of this. How are you going to deal with this? Old man cherishing fortune asked as he looked at General Xing. General Xing hesitated slightly, but still said frankly, Since it's already happened, it's already impossible for us to reconcile with the Qin family. Since it's like this, it's better to take the initiative and drag them into the quagmire. We don't want to fight with the Qin family until both sides suffer, and the Qin family naturally has the same thoughts. If we take the initiative and let the Qin family feel our aggressiveness, maybe they will retreat. After the Qin family finds out about this, they will definitely be furious. Junling sighed, I'm afraid the pressure will be great. This matter has touched their bottom line, they definitely won't take it lying down. Qin Chang has a high heart but shallow talent, and is extremely concerned about face. He will definitely think of a way to get back at them. Junling's situation is very dangerous. General Xing looked at grandfather Jiang Shifu and said, I have wronged Junling in this matter. She is the most innocent person here. As a responsible man, I will stand up for Junling. I will go to the Li family to propose marriage and officially marry Li Junling. Otherwise, I'm afraid she won't be able to persevere. I ask Grandpa for your approval. A divine light flashed in Jiang Shifu's eyes, and he instantly returned to his old and muddy appearance. He looked at his grandson for a long time, then said in a low voice, Since you have already decided, then do it. This is your last test. If you succeed, you will be a dragon. If you fail, you will be a worm. That is all. Yes, General Xing respectfully responded. I definitely won't disappoint Grandpa. After General Xing left, old man Jiang Shifu held a cup of tea that was gradually cooling in a daze. Pitiful woman, Jiang Shifu muttered to himself. The Qin family and the Jiang family have started a war. I knew they would definitely start a war. This is too exciting. The Jiang family's General Xing made a cuckold out of the Qin family's Qin Chang, and the Qin family immediately retaliated and eliminated Li Junling. The Qin family's methods, tsk. I heard that the Jiang family wanted to kill them to silence them, in order to put this shit on the Qin family's head, so that the Qin family won't be able to say anything. After the video was released, there was a short period of silence between the Qin family and the Jiang family, then the situation became intense. Huaxia country's famous piano master, Li Boyong, brought the female protagonist of the video, Li Junling, to the Qin family to apologize, but on the way back, the luxurious car they were riding in crashed into a ravine, killing both of them. During the crash, the car exploded, and the father and daughter were burned into charcoal. At the same time, General Xing brought generous gifts and a matchmaker to the Li family to propose marriage, hoping that the Li family and the Qin family would officially cancel the marriage and fulfill his and Li Junling's hard-to-sever relationship. He didn't wait for Li Junling to return, but he received news that Li Junling had gotten into a car accident. It was said that after receiving the news, General Xing cried bitterly, and even smashed many of the Li family's things, clenching his teeth and yelling, "They've gone too far." Who was the one going too far? The onlookers made all sorts of interpretations of this. Some people said it was obvious, this was the Qin family going too far. Although Li Junling had already apologized to the Qin family, Li Boyong had already brought his daughter to the Qin family to apologize, but on the way back, they got into a car accident. It was obvious that the Qin family wanted to show their power to the Jiang family. The woman that the Qin family couldn't get, the Jiang family shouldn't even think about getting. Some people said that General Xing was deliberately setting up a trap. General Xing knew that this time, he had angered the Qin family, and that a war was inevitable, so he might as well kill them to silence them, and then pour the dirty water on the Qin family, making them unable to extricate themselves from the quagmire, and also accept the attacks and judgment of public opinion. The war had already begun. While the outside was in an uproar, Fang Yen was sitting in Qin Etienne's villa, drinking tea. He was drinking tea that Qin Etienne had personally grown and personally picked. To be honest, the taste of the tea really wasn't that great, far from the top-grade tea that the Qin family had all year round. But young Miss Qin had kindly brought the tea in front of you, waiting for your evaluation with a face full of expectation, so how could you not give a few polite words of praise? "It's really good tea," Fang Yen said with a face full of enjoyment. "The last time I came here, I already felt that these tea leaves weren't ordinary, but now I know that they were personally picked by Etienne. Like I said, other than the fact that Qin Etienne can't pick the stars from the sky, there's nothing in this world that's too difficult for her. There's another thing." Qin Etienne had a mischievous smile and said, "Qin Etienne also can't pick the heart of a man." Cough, cough, cough. Fang Yen coughed violently. With a red face and a thick neck, he said, "That's because that man has eyes but can't see." "Not really," Qin Etienne sighed softly and said, "That's because that man chose a better woman." Seeing the regret on Qin Etienne's face, Fang Yan's mood was also a bit heavy, and he said softly, "It's not about who's better than who, it's only about suitability. How do you know that I'm not suitable?" Qin Etienne interrupted Fang Yan and asked. Seeing that Fang Yan was once again speechless by her question, Qin Etienne giggled. After laughing for a while, her face became gloomy again, and she said, "You're getting married, right?" "Yes." "The 8th of the 12th lunar month." Fang Yan nodded. "So annoying," Qin Etienne said. "If you're like other men, when I ask such a question, you lie and say that there's no such thing, but if you were that kind of man, I wouldn't like you so much. I think with your conditions you can find a better man. What kind of man in this world can resist your charm?" Fang Yan said with a smile. "Yes. Everyone says that, my mother also told me that, but no one cares about the main point of the matter. The main point is that the man I like is you. You see, you don't know what to say again. I understand you. If I were you, I probably wouldn't know what to say either. Qin Tian pursed his lips and chuckled. But if I were you, I might not meet another girl like me who always says the words like in love. When I think about it this way, I feel that this world is so boring. So, I'll stick to being myself, and you should stick to being yourself. I'll continue to like you, and you should continue to be the person I like. Will you come to my wedding? Fang Yen asked carefully. In Swallow Dock, it's an old-fashioned wedding. You might think it's old-fashioned and boring. Qin Tian glanced at Fang Yen with a faint smile on his face and asked, Mr. Fang, are you afraid that I'll ruin your wedding? Chapter 8:14. What's the most troublesome thing about preparing for a wedding? It's that you don't know who you should invite and who you shouldn't. If you send an invitation, you're worried that people won't come. If you don't send an invitation, you're worried that people will complain. Fang Yen wasn't afraid that Qin Tian wouldn't come. On the contrary, he was afraid that Qin Tian would come. He was afraid that she would come and make trouble. According to their relationship, if Fang Yen got married, he would naturally send an invitation to Qin Tian. However, Fang Yen knew Qin Tian's feelings for him. If he told her that he was going to marry Yi Rou, would she feel sad? Before Fang Yen could think of a way to say it, Qin Tian took the initiative to ask. In this case, Fang Yen had no reason to hide anything. But why did Qin Tian look at me so strangely? How come? Fang Yen knew how difficult it was to deal with Qin Tian. Fine beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. He held the teacup with both hands and looked at the pots of chrysanthemum in the yard. I'm just afraid that you're too busy or you don't like the traditional wedding. I like it very much. Qin Tian squinted his eyes and smiled. Do you really want me to go? Of course it's true, Fang Yen said seriously. I'm very sincere. In this case I'll go. Qin Tian hesitated for a moment and nodded. Fang Yen also grinned and said, I'm very happy that you can go to my wedding, really? Qin Tian looked at Fang Yen and said, On the day of your wedding, I'll put on my most beautiful dress and my favorite phoenix coronet. I'll dress myself up beautifully to be your bridesmaid. What do you think? Fang Yen nodded. Imagining the scene of Qin Tian appearing at Swallow Dock in a gorgeous gown and an expensive phoenix coronet, Fang Yen felt his head begin to swell with pain. As expected, the thing he was most worried about was about to happen. If Qin Tian attended the wedding in Swallow Dock in this manner, in the eyes of outsiders, who would be the bride that day be, Yi Rou or her? Although Yi Rou is broad-minded, she is a woman after all. Doesn't she mind it at all? Fang Yen looked at Qin Tian with a bitter smile and said, I know you won't do that, right? Why not? Qin Tian asked back. This is my usual style. Why should I change it? Besides, I also want to prove to some people that I didn't lose because I was worse than others, but because I was a little slower. Qin Tian giggled and looked at Fang Yan's nervous face. She said, Are you afraid, Mr. Fang? I'm not afraid. I'm just worried that things will get complicated. Qin Tian sighed softly and said, That's your wedding, the most important day in your life. How can I ruin it? Maybe I'll be very busy that day and have a lot of work to deal with. Maybe I suddenly have an upset stomach or some other problems. I won't be able to attend your wedding that day. Actually, Fang Yen looked at Qin Tian and said, I still hope that you can attend my wedding. Yes, I also want to. Qin Tian nodded with a smile, but her eyes were a little moist. She said, I want to see if you look handsome as the groom. I want to see if you will be nervous when you bow to heaven and earth. I want to see the bride's happy face when you hold her hand. I want to see all the guests say their sincere blessings to you. But I can't do it. Qin Tian raised her head, and the tear that was about to fall fell back. She was Qin Tian, the Qin Tian who was as proud as a queen. Tears were superfluous and unnecessary burdens to her. I can accept you marrying other women, but I really don't like it. I hope you're unhappy. I hope you're not happy. Then you'll understand that I'm better." Fang Yen was silent. He really wanted to hold this girl who was arrogant even when he confessed to her. But he didn't dare and couldn't do that. She was no longer a child. She was no longer his student. She was Qin Yitian, the little princess of the Qin family, the little beauty of Yanjing, Qin Yitian. Knock, knock, knock. Coco pushed the door open in her high heels. She looked at Qin Yitian and said, "Miss, Madam is here." "I got it." Qin Yitian took out a piece of tissue to wipe the little bit of moisture from the corner of her eyes. She didn't want others to see her weak and helpless side. Even if that person was her mother. Li Xinyan was here. This was the first time Fang Yen saw Li Xinyan in Qin Yitian's villa. The mother and daughter had one thing in common. Every time they went out, it was like a visit from the head of a country. Following Li Xinyan were 5 luxury cars, a dozen bodyguards, and 2 confidential assistants. Li Xinyan was surrounded by them, like a queen who came out to inspect her territory. The bodyguards and assistants dispersed outside. Li Xinyan was welcomed into the living room by Qin Yitian and Fang Yen. He said, "What are you two talking about?" "We're talking about Fang Yan's wedding," Qin Yitian said expressionlessly. Her emotions didn't fluctuate at all. It was as if she was talking about a very insignificant matter. "Fang Yen is getting married. Did he send you an invitation?" Li Xinyan looked at her daughter's face and said to Fang Yen, "Let's talk alone." Then she took the lead and walked to the backyard of the villa. Fang Yen glanced at Qin Yitian and had to stand up and follow her. The backyard of the villa was where Fang Yen often went to the hot spring. Li Xinyan sat on a rattan chair and waited for Fang Yan's arrival. Fang Yen walked in front of Li Xinyan and said, "Teacher, Yitian cried just now," Li Xinyan said. Fang Yen was very shocked. Qin Yitian did show signs of crying just now, but he saw very clearly that the tears didn't flow down at all. Moreover, before knowing that Li Xinyan was coming, Qin Yitian used a wet tissue to wipe the corners of her eyes. She used a definite sentence, not a question, which meant that she was sure that Qin Yitian cried just now. Was this the legendary mother-daughter bond? No. Fang Yen wanted to make his description more accurate. Yitian is a very proud person. Yes, because she is a very proud person, she disdains to fight for things. But if she doesn't fight for things, how can she get what she wants? Li Xinyan obviously also felt that his daughter's emotional problems were a bit tricky. He looked at Fang Yen and said, "Fang Yen, don't blame me for bringing it up again. I'll ask you again. Are you really not going to consider the proposal from last time?" Fang Yen was silent for a long time, then looked at Li Xinyan and said, "I really don't want to refuse. Because every time I refuse, I feel like I'm hurting Yitian. But you also know the situation right now. I already have a fiancé, I'm going to marry another girl, the betrothal gift has already been given, the wedding date has already been set. How can I let that girl down and choose Yitian? If that's the case, how can I be worthy of Yitian's love?" Ai. Li Xinyan sighed softly and said, "I just didn't think that my daughter would lose. Ever since she was young, she has never lost. All right, don't feel troubled, this kind of thing can't be forced. Since Yitian has already decided to give up, I can't interfere too much." Li Xinyan looked at Fang Yen and said, "You already know about the recent situation, right?" "Situation? What situation?" Fang Yen asked with a confused expression. Li Xinyan's expression was gentle as he said softly, "Fang Yen, do you really not know anything? Are you talking about the matter of General Heng stealing Qin Chang's girlfriend?" When this matter was exposed, I was also quite surprised. General Heng looks like a gentleman on the surface, but I didn't expect him to be a beast in human clothing, capable of doing all kinds of shameless things. Speaking of which, my relationship with Qin Chang is quite good. Although we had some disagreements the last time we met at Junwei House, we quickly became very good friends. I haven't had the chance to see him since coming to Beijing this time, otherwise I would have to properly comfort him. Fang Yan. Li Xinyan's gaze became sharp and said, "Do you really think that no one knows that you were the one who released that video?" Fang Yan looked at Li Xinyan with a surprised expression and said, "You're actually suspecting me?" "I'm not suspecting, I'm certain. I'm certain that you did it." "You have proof?" "I don't have proof." Li Xinyan's words sounded a bit unreasonable as he said, "Feeling, this is my feeling, and also the answer that I came up with after analyzing it. Every time, you only need to pay attention to who is the biggest beneficiary behind the scenes to easily find the answer." Fang Yan. After that video was exposed, the Qin family and the Jiang family became mortal enemies. Even if the Qin family is unwilling to help, they will not accept any possibility of cooperation with the Jiang family. In addition, the Jiang family's reputation has fallen to the ground, and they have become the talk and laughing stock of the people of Beijing. Killing several birds with one stone, isn't this your plan? Fang Yan looked at Li Xinyan with a serious expression and said, "Teacher, what's your attitude? What do you think of this matter? Do you think it's good or bad that this happened?" "From your point of view, it's naturally excellent. A stroke of genius," Li Xinyan praised. "From your point of view? It's also good," Li Xinyan said expressionlessly. "At least the noise in the house has disappeared, and a few people have become obedient." Fang Yan opened his mouth and smiled, then said, "If that's the case, then I'll be honest with you. This matter was done by me." Fang Yan. Li Xinyan's expression suddenly became murderous. "So it was you." "It wasn't me," Fang Yan immediately denied. "I'm just joking, how could I think of such a brilliant idea? Ha ha." Chapter 8:15. It's just a game of words. If you think it's good that it happened, then I'm the one who did it. If you think it's bad, then it has nothing to do with me. You said it yourself, you don't have any evidence to prove that I have anything to do with this. Fang Yan isn't trying to hide anything, I just don't want to bring trouble to myself because of this. Of course, if he can gain some benefits or take advantage of something, he can be thick-skinned and admit it for now. Fang Yan. Li Xinyan stared coldly at Fang Yan and said, "Is this your attitude?" "This isn't my attitude, this is the attitude I'm showing to cater to your attitude," Fang Yan said with a smile. "You're worried that I'll take revenge on you?" Li Xinyan asked Fang Yan. "Do you think I'll hate or blame the culprit who released this video just to protect the Qin family's reputation? I did have that worry before. After all, after the video was released, the Qin family was pushed to the teeth of the storm, ridiculed and belittled. The Qin family's reputation was ruined, and they probably won't be able to raise their heads in public for a while. Moreover, the Qin family originally had more choices. However, after this incident, the number of choices available to them has become very limited," Fang Yan said with a smile. "That's right. But now I know Teacher Li's stance on this matter, and I also know that Teacher Li has always cared for me. The Qin family cutting off all ties with the Jiang family, and starting a fierce battle in some areas where the Jiang family has an advantage. This is a great thing for me and also the greatest support for me. When the Qin family and the Jiang family are in a chaotic battle, the pressure on Huaqing has decreased a lot. This isn't caring for you, but the Qin family has its own dignity and reputation to protect." Li Xinyan expressionlessly looked at Fang Yan and corrected his self-perception. "I'm really angry that you suddenly released that video. The elders of the Qin family are also angry. But as I said, from your perspective, you have 100 reasons to do so." "Yes," Fang Yan nodded. "I have other methods as well. For example, after getting the video, I would find a suitable opportunity to send it to Qin Chang. As long as Qin Chang knew about this, the wedding between the Qin family and Li Junling would be ruined. The Qin family and the Jiang family would become mortal enemies. However, I was worried that Qin Chang's influence was still too small. I was worried that someone in the Qin family would want to suppress this matter. If that's the case, Li Junling won't be able to display her greatest value. So you pushed it to the public? I can only do this. Fang Yen looked at Li Xinyan sincerely. You also know that my current situation isn't too good. The Jiang family is closing in on us step by step, and we don't have much power to fight back. Li Junling is a chess piece that I have my eyes on since a long time ago. Regardless of whether she is related to the Qin family or not, things will come to this, unless she doesn't leave any evidence behind. Everyone lives a difficult life, Li Xinyan said with a sigh. Yes, everyone's life is not easy. I was forced to this point by the Jiang family, so if I can find a chance to fight back or win, I will always want to try. At that time, morality and conscience will temporarily retreat, and I will first ensure that I and my friends can live well. Li Xinyan nodded, then looked at Fang Yen and asked, Li Junling was killed. On the way out of the Qin family, she got into a car accident. I know, Fang Yen said. What do you think of this? I expected General Xing to play this hand, Fang Yen said coldly. He hated people who disregarded life. Those people had no compassion or virtue. They weren't worthy of being human. He saw that he was about to lose his hand, but he couldn't save the situation, so he simply flipped the table. This way, no one would be able to see the end. General Xing and Li Junling were having an affair. He couldn't clean up this matter. Whether it was giving up on Li Junling or accepting her, it was an incredibly difficult matter for him. If he gave up on Li Junling, his reputation would fall to the ground. He would be criticized and attacked by countless people, and it would be difficult for him to gain the trust of others in the future. Even the family would lose their expectations of him. Accepting Li Junling was the same as stabbing a thorn in the Qin family's eye. Every time the Qin family saw Li Junling and General Xing together, they would feel angry. General Xing isn't an idiot. Regardless of whether he can take over the Jiang family in the future, he can't create such a strong opponent for himself. He can't keep a target by his side at all times. When the Qin family's hostility reaches a peak, no one can predict what they will do. General Xing doesn't dare risk his life. Besides, Li Junling was previously the fiancé of the Qin family. If General Xing wants to marry Li Junling, he probably won't be able to get past the Jiang family, right? Jiang Shifu is an old man who cares about his face. Would he let his grandson, the man who might be the future leader of the Jiang family, marry a woman who had an affair before? Even though the object of that woman's affair was his own grandson, this is still something that he can't tolerate and accept. Li Xinyan laughed lightly and said, Perhaps General Xing really wants to marry Li Junling? He brought people to the Li family to propose, but when he received the bad news that Li Junling had gotten into a car accident, he cried endlessly. It's said that he even smashed 2 mahogany chairs and a Ming dynasty vase. Fang Yen laughed coldly and said, The reason why General Xing dared to go to the Li family to propose was because he knew that he didn't need to be responsible for anyone. If he knew that Li Junling would get into a car accident, then why wouldn't he bring people to the Li family and pretend to be an infatuated man? The connoisseur understands the artistry, while the layman enjoys the show. Even though we understand the mystery behind this, the majority of people in this world are made up of ordinary people. After something like this happened, General Xing's reputation should be pretty good right now, right? Very good, Li Xinyan said. Some people compare them to the butterfly lovers, saying that the Qin family ruined the marriage of a pair of people who truly loved each other. He became the representative of love and righteousness. Look, our opponent is such a smart guy, Fang Yen said with a smile. He caused such a big trouble by fooling around with a woman, but in the end, he didn't have to clean up after anyone, and he even won reputation and sympathy. I like smart young people. Li Xinyan looked at Fang Yen and said, But I don't like smart people who do things without principles or limits. So you have a reason to like me. Fang Yen said seriously, I'm smart and I do things with principles and limits. I believe in Etienne's eyesight. Li Xinyan didn't deny it this time. She can't like a scumbag. At this time of the year, people in Beijing already needed to wear windbreakers or thicker cotton-padded jackets to keep out the cold, but Huaqing was still in the midst of autumn. The leaves had only just turned yellow, unlike the north, which was full of fallen leaves. The winter water wasn't cold, the winter wind wasn't cold, and the winter soil wasn't frozen. Huaqing was named after flowers, and bright flowers bloomed all year round. Even during the coldest time of the year, a thick sweater was enough to last them through the winter. On a desolate beach, among the withered reeds, a lone bird flew across the water, then disappeared into the reeds without a trace. Then, as if it was threatened, it flapped its wings and flew away. Deep within the reeds, the silhouettes of people could be faintly seen. They were lying there motionlessly, like hunters waiting to catch their prey. It's in front, a man's voice said. I see it, another man's voice said. How do we move? Together. Of course I know we should move together. I just want to ask who's in front and who's behind. One in front, one behind. The honest voice sounded a bit impatient. You go from the front, I'll attack from behind. Why don't you go from the front, I'll attack from behind? Fine, I'll go from the front, you attack from behind. Huh, why didn't you argue with me this time? While the fat figure was still talking, the thin man who always liked to argue with him had already charged forward like a bony snake. His figure was tall and thin, but his movements were very agile. He disappeared into the reeds in an instant. This guy, the fat figure sighed, then turned into an agile, wild boar and also charged towards the row of makeshift houses by the sea. Regardless of whether it was a large building or a marine project, they would first hire workers to build makeshift houses near the project as a temporary command post and resting place for the workers. This place was originally meant to be a port, but for some unknown reason, the port project was stopped, and the makeshift houses lost their purpose. Perhaps due to other considerations, the makeshift houses were never demolished. Enduring the wind and waves, but also taking in seabirds and crabs, the two of them moved quickly, and after a few difficult stealth movements, they had already moved to the side of the makeshift house. They hid behind a small clump of reeds, and after their eyes met, their bodies rushed forward like arrows or pigs released from bowstrings. When they were about to reach the door of the makeshift house, they ran back at a speed 10 times faster than when they left. Whoosh! Countless assassins in black appeared around them. Chapter 8:16. The men in black were like a group of well-trained ghosts. They quietly crawled out from the roof of the prefab house and the reed. They formed a fan-shaped encirclement. Other than the path they came from, the other 3 paths were all blocked by them. They gave you 2 choices: run or die. Of course, this was under the condition that you could escape. If you couldn't, you would die. According to Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen's style, they would fight if they could win, and run if they couldn't. When Fang Yingxiong was about to run back into the reeds with his butt in the air, he noticed something unusual around him. Fang Haohen did not follow. Instead, he stopped at the edge of the reeds. Then, step by step, he walked in the direction of the makeshift house, toward the men in black. Fang Yingying panicked. He turned around and shouted at Fang Haohen, "Fang Haohen, are you crazy? Run." Fang Haohen didn't respond and continued to walk toward the men in black. Fang Yingying turned around and dragged Fang Haohen's body. He shouted, "Hero, go, go, we are surrounded. Have you forgotten what Junior Marshal Uncle taught us? Safety first. You go, I won't go." Fang Haohen shook off Fang Yingying's pull and said in a hoarse voice, "They came out, which means we have found the right place. Our hard work has been worth it." "Of course I know we have found the right place, but don't you see how many people there are? 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. Let's retreat first and go back to get reinforcements. I can't go, Fong Haohan said firmly. If we leave, they will leave too. Didn't we spend so much effort to find them just for this moment? As Fong Haohan spoke, he was already standing not far from the group of men in black. Fong Yingying gritted his teeth, straightened his back, and stood beside Fong Haohan. If you're not here, I won't leave either. Today, us 2 brothers will fight to the death with them. This bunch of trash might not be able to keep us here, Fong Haohan said confidently. Let's go back and forth, then save Li Ye. All right, for sister-in-law, big brother will fight it out with you. The wind is bleak and the water is cold. Heroes and warriors stand shoulder to shoulder. Fong Haohan stared fiercely at the men in black and said, I'll go first. I'll go with you. The 2 of them rubbed their palms together and prepared to attack. Hua la la, the group of black-clothed men shook their wrists, and each of them held a pitch-black pistol in their hands. The pitch-black muzzle was aimed at Fong Yingying and Fong Haohan's entire body. As long as someone gave the order, the 2 of them would be turned into sieves by these bullets. Fong Yingying and Fong Haohan, who were about to charge forward, stopped. The 2 of them looked at each other and raised their hands high up at the same time. We surrender, Fong Yingying said. If you have the ability, then fight with me for real. What kind of hero is holding a gun? Fong Haohan shouted. The black-clothed men parted to the sides, and a young man wearing white casual pants and a striped vest walked out. In such a desolate suburb, it was really surprising to see such a man dressed like a noble. Jiang Junling held an apple in his hand, and with a bite the juice flowed out, and when he chewed, it made a kacha-kacha sound. Jiang Junling ate the apple while looking at Fong Yingying and Fong Haohan, and said with a smile, Fong Yen sent you? I wanted to come myself. Fong Haohan said firmly. He knew who Jiang Junling was, and he also knew what kind of deep hatred Jiang Junling had with his junior martial uncle. Was Li Ye kidnapped by you guys? Here. Jiang Junling pointed to the makeshift house behind him and said, If Li Ye is Du Qing's beautiful goddaughter, then she is indeed in our hands. However, it seems like it will be very difficult for you to take her away, right? We never thought of taking her away, Fong Yingying said righteously. We just want to be with her. Fong Haohan looked at Fong Yingying in dissatisfaction, feeling that he had stolen his lines, and said, Yes, we just want to be with her. Jiang Junling chuckled as he looked at the 2 of them, and said, As expected of someone from the Fong family, you guys are exactly the same as Fong Yen. Hearing Jiang Junling praise them for being exactly the same as junior martial uncle Fong Yen, Fong Yingying and Fong Haohan both revealed smiles on their faces. But thinking about their current situation, the smile on their faces instantly disappeared. We want to meet Li Ye, Fong Haohan said. Fong Yingying pointed at Fong Haohan and said, The main thing is that he wants to see Li Ye. It doesn't matter if I see him or not. But it would be best if the 3 of us could be arranged together. All right, since you guys have already made such a request. Jiang Junling threw away the apple core in his hand, took a towel from a black-clothed man and wiped his hands, then said with a smile, For my old friend Fong Yan's sake, I will not satisfy any of you. Look, don't I have Fong Yan's style when I speak like this? Fong Yingying nodded, and said to Fong Haohan, It really does look like it. Jiang Junling felt a little bored and said, Capture them all. Thus, a few black-clothed men put away the guns in their hands and rushed over. In a group of 2, they carried handcuffs that looked translucent and had liquid rippling inside, wanting to handcuff Fong Yingying and Fong Haohan. No need to go through so much trouble. A hearty man's voice was heard. If you cuff them now, you will have to untie them in a while. Why bother? The reeds parted, and a man with long hair walked out with his head held high. Bai Li Lu. Fong Yingying was overjoyed. He waved at Bai Li Lu and shouted, We are here, I see you. Bai Li Lu glanced at Fang Yingying and said, "You're so big, it's not easy to not see you." Bai Li Lu walked straight to Jiang Junling and said with a smile, "Young Master Jiang, it's not the first time we've dealt with each other. I know your personality, and you also understand my temper. I'll take them away and we'll discuss other things slowly. How about it? Give me a reason." Jiang Junling looked at Bai Li Lu and said with a smile, "Why? Because I'm standing in front of you. I'm afraid this reason won't convince me." Jiang Junling shook his head and refused. "Even if you were standing in front of me, you wouldn't be able to take them away." When he said this, 1/3 of the black-clothed men turned their guns and aimed at Bai Li Lu. Some of them took out silver-white disc-shaped objects, which could blast Bai Li Lu, Fang Yingying, and Fang Haohan into thin air. Genetic bomb. Bai Li Lu pursed his lips and said with some annoyance, "These things again." Fang Yingying was shocked, thinking that Bai Li Lu did not know the danger of these things, and quickly reminded him, "Big brother Bai Li, when those things explode, it's very terrifying. Even rocks can melt into ashes." "I know," Bai Li Lu said with some impatience. "A long time ago, your junior martial uncle reminded me that when I encounter these things, I should either kill the person directly or run far away to avoid being killed by them. I want to run far away, but I still have to save you two, idiot. What do you think I should do?" Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan thought about it seriously, and also began to worry about Bai Li Lu's situation. Jiang Junling looked at Bai Li Lu with a smile and said, "It's the people from Swallow Dock again. I really hate the people from Swallow Dock more and more now. Last time we parted at Lotus Temple, I thought there would be a chance to see you again. I didn't expect you to deliver yourself to me. Bai Li Lu, do you think I don't dare to kill you?" "Of course you dare to kill me," Bai Li Lu said carelessly. "You are a scum who has no father or son and was expelled by your own family. What kind of things can't you do? Is there anything you don't dare to do in this world? Is there someone you don't dare to kill? It's good that you understand. We all know each other well, so there's no need to waste your breath." Jiang Junling's eyes were full of murderous intent. He was ready to kill. As long as he gave the order, the group of men in black behind him would be able to use Bai Li Lu, Fang Yingying, and Fang Haohan as targets. There was also a group of masters scattered on both sides. They were the high priests that Jiang Junling had won over before. Later, because of his downfall, a group of them left, including the blind fisherman and the Xing-Yi master Bao Shi. The blind fisherman left because of the estrangement between him and Bao Shi, and it was purely because he couldn't get what he wanted from him. However, there was still a group of masters whose lives were in his hands, and who had to work for him stayed by his side. Even if Bai Li Lu and the others were not killed by the random gunshots, occasionally a fish that slipped through the net would be attacked by the group and chopped into meat paste. After Jiang Junling left the Jiang family, he became a lonely ghost wandering in the wilderness. He looked miserable and pitiful, but it also freed him from the shackles brought by his identity. He could use all kinds of means to achieve his own goals unscrupulously. For example, now, he unabashedly took those murderous maniacs, members of the arsenal, who had the most sophisticated weapons with him, as bodyguards. If it had been in the past, it would have been a big taboo. "Don't be impulsive." Bai Li Lu waved his hand and said with a smile, "I know what you want to do, but I advise you not to be impulsive." "Oh." Jiang Junling looked at Bai Li Lu and smiled gently and comfortably. He said, "Although I really don't have any entertainment on this seaside, when I'm tired of playing a game, I naturally want to give up and change to another game. If you don't have any more fun games, then I can only say goodbye forever." "There really is," Bai Li Lu said with a serious face. "I know you like playing games. Today I'll play with you to the fullest." He clapped his hands, and there was a slight whistling sound. That sound was very strange, like a buzzing sound in the air. It was not very clear, but everyone present could hear it. When this sound rang out, a scene that made people's scalps tingle appeared. Countless venomous snakes rushed out from the reed. They entangled with each other and hissed. They were so densely packed that they blotted out the sky and covered the earth as they swept towards them. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.